China, Japan, Mexico. We need to build a wall, and I will have Mexico pay for that wall. I am Donald Trump. What I say is what I say. Kai, Donnie, Don, Tiffany, Donald Trump. I'm really rich.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Johnny Ray Show. This is the Vice Presidential Debate Edition. I will be doing a live stream of the entire Vice Presidential debate between Vice President Mike Pence and the nominee for Vice President of the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris. Now, make sure if you're watching on YouTube to like, hit the subscribe button, make sure and hit the bell to make sure you get the notifications for all my new episodes as they air. I will be kind of going in and out. I will be fact checking as we go along. So I hope that you enjoy this, and I hope that I can do more of these in the future. So we should be getting started pretty soon. I will let you know you can always catch the Johnny Ray Show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, SoundCloud, really anywhere that audio podcasts are. You can also catch me every week on YouTube. Make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe. Make sure that you hit the notification bell again to make sure you get notified for all the future episodes. So we should be getting here pretty soon. It's about that time. My question to all of you is what do you think will be the outcome? Do you think that Mike Pence will dominate like a lot of conservatives are saying? Do you think Kamala Harris is going to come out strong? What do you think the hits and misses are going to be? Make sure and comment down below. And on the next episode, I'll make sure and read some of the best comments. So as we go along here, we'll see, what happens. I do think that Mike Pence has got to be firm. I think that he's got to probably, he's probably going to have to defend Trump a little bit. Unfortunately, that's kind of the job he signed up for, being the vice president of Donald Trump. I think Kamala Harris is probably going to do exactly what Joe Biden did in the presidential debate, which is I think she's going to go back and forth on issues that she's clearly been in favor of, both while she was running and now as the vice presidential candidate. So, basically, I think Mike Pence is going to have to stay firm. I think he's going to have to definitely hit on the things that the policies that she has flip-flopped on over time. I definitely think that he has to make sure and hammer her a little bit on the Black Lives Matter movement, the violence, the riots, and how the Democratic Party as a whole has encouraged this in the past months, as opposed to condemning it, which they so eloquently make Donald Trump do, condemn white supremacists and white nationalists every day of the week, essentially. I do think that COVID is going to be a big part of this debate, as it was the presidential, and I think that Mike Pence has to be firm on what they've done, and if push comes to shove, I think he definitely needs to push back at Kamala and say, what would you have done different? Because I don't think she has an answer. I don't think Joe Biden has an answer to that, because I think that everything that Donald Trump did, I think that that they would have
Good
done
evening.
the same thing.
From the
So
University of Utah in Salt
let me know
Lake
what your
City,
thoughts are.
welcome to the first and
Be sure
only
to
Vice Presidential
comment.
Debate of
You know,
2020.
this will be posted
Sponsored by the
on all the
Nonpartisan
social
Commission
media
on
pages, so
Presidential
make sure you
Debates.
comment, like, share
I'm
it,
Susan Page of
and get
USA
it out
Today.
there.
It
So
is my
let's go ahead
honor
and
to moderate
get
this
started
debate,
here.
an important part of our democracy. In Kingsbury Hall tonight, we have a small and socially distant audience, and we've taken extra precautions during this pandemic. Among other things, everyone in the audience is required to wear a face mask, and the candidates will be seated 12 feet apart.
With plexiglass,
The audience is
two
enthusiastic
pieces of
about the candidates,
plexiglass.
but they've agreed to express
But
that
if you
enthusiasm
notice,
only
if you
twice,
look,
at the
there
end of the
there's
debate,
plexiglass
and now,
in
when I
between
introduce
the
candidates.
two
Please
debating,
welcome
but not
California
in
Senator
front of
Kamala
them,
Harris
as
and
if
Vice
the
President Mike
moderator
Pence.
is somehow immune to getting COVID. But they wouldn't be 13 whole feet apart, and it's ridiculous. The Democrats have been doing this for months, and it's getting stupid to the point of stupidity.
Senator Harris and Vice President Pence, thank you for being here. We're meeting as President Trump and the First Lady continue to undergo treatment in Washington after testing positive for COVID-19.
Of course.
We send our thoughts and prayers to them for their rapid and complete recovery and for the recovery of everyone afflicted
By
by
the way,
coronavirus.
just so everybody's
The two
clear
campaigns
here,
and the Commission
this
on
moderator
Presidential Debates have agreed
is
to the ground
currently
rules for the night.
writing
I'm here
the
to enforce
biography
them on
for
behalf of
Nancy
the millions of
Pelosi.
Americans
So that's
who are
just to
watching.
set the tone on
One
how
note, no one in either
biased I
campaign
believe
or
that
at the
this
commission
moderator
or
is
anywhere
going to
else
be.
has been told in advance what topics I'll raise or what questions I'll ask. This 90-minute debate will be divided into 9 segments of about 10 minutes each. I'll begin a segment by posing a question to each of you, sometimes the same question, sometimes a different question on the same topic. You will then have 2 minutes to answer without interruption by me or the other candidate. Then we'll take 6 minutes or so to discuss the issue. At that point, although there will always be more to say, we'll move on to the next topic. We want a debate that is lively, but Americans also deserve a discussion that is civil. These are tumultuous times, but we can and will have a respectful exchange about the big issues facing our nation. Let's begin with the ongoing pandemic that has cost our country
COVID.
so
Okay.
much. Senator Harris, the coronavirus is not under control. Over the past week, Johns Hopkins reports that 39 states have had more COVID cases over the past 7 days than in the week before. 9 states have set new records. Even if a vaccine is released soon, the next administration will face hard choices. What would a Biden administration do in January and February that a Trump administration wouldn't do? Would you impose new lockdowns for businesses and schools and hotspots? A federal mandate to wear masks? You have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Thank you, Susan. Well, the American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country. And here are the facts. 210,000 dead people in our country in just the last several months.
Dead Americans. I
Over
would
7
like you to
million
say
people
that.
have contracted this disease. 1 in 5 businesses closed.
Because of
looking at
you.
Frontline workers
Because
who have been
of
treated
Democrats,
like
they
sacrificial
closed.
workers. We are looking at over 30 million people who in the last several months had to file for unemployment.
Because of you, you
On
ignorant.
January 28th,
It was Democrats that
Vice
did
President
that.
and the President were
Democrats were the ones that were
about the nature
all
of this
for
pandemic. They
locking
were
down and
informed that it's
shutting down the
legal in
economy.
consequence,
It was
that it is airborne,
you.
that
It
it
wasn't
will affect young
Donald
people,
Trump. It wasn't Mike Pence.
and that
It wasn't
would be
Ted
contracted
Cruz.
because it is
It wasn't
airborne.
any of them. It was literally
And they knew
Damn
what was
cat.
happening, and
Get.
they didn't tell.
get.
Can you imagine?
It was
if
literally
you. Knew on
you.
January
It was
28th,
Democrats.
As opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare.
Oh my God.
They knew and they covered it up. The president said it was a hoax.
He never
They
said it was a
minimize the
hoax.
seriousness
He never
of
said it was a...
The
This
president
is the
said,
biggest
"You're on
lie
one
that
side
they
of
have
his
been
ledger
telling
if you
over the
wear a
last
mask,
couple
you're
of
on the other
months.
side of
He
his
never
ledger
said it was a
if you
hoax.
don't."
He said
And
that
in
the
spite of
media
all of that, today,
using
they still
as a
don't have a
political
plan.
ploy was their
They
new
still
hoax,
don't have a plan. Well, Joe Biden
i.e.
does.
following
And our
Russia
plan is about
collusion,
what we need to do around a
Ukraine
national
phone calls,
strategy
impeachments.
for contact tracing,
That's
for
what he
testing,
was saying.
for
He was saying
administration of
that
the
it was
vaccine,
their
and
new
making sure that it will
hoax.
be free for all. That is the plan that Joe Biden has and that I have, knowing that we have to get a hold of what has been going on, and we need to save our country. And Joe Biden is the best leader to do that, and frankly, this administration...
Oh yeah,
has
the guy that's
forfeited
hidden in his
their right to
basement for
re-election.
4 out of the
Thank you.
last 6
Thank you,
months.
Senator Harris.
That's
Vice
just-
President
I
Pence,
can't even with
more
you
than
stupidity.
210,000 Americans have died of COVID-19 since February. The U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population is higher than that of almost every other wealthy nation on Earth. For instance, our death rate is 2.5 times that of Canada next door. You head the administration's coronavirus task force. Why is the U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population higher than that of almost every other wealthy country? And you have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Susan, thank you. And I want to thank the Commission and the University of Utah for hosting this event. And Senator Harris, it's a privilege to be on the stage with you.
Through 2
Our nation is
glasses
going
of
through a very challenging
plexiglass.
time this year. But I want the American people to know that from the very first day, President Donald Trump has put the health of America first. Before there were more than 5 cases in the United States, all people who had returned from China, President Donald Trump did what no other American president had ever done. And that was he suspended all travel from China, the second
For
largest
which
economy in the
Joe
world.
Biden called him xenophobic,
Senator
by the
Joe
way.
Biden opposed that decision.
There you
He
go.
said it was xenophobic and hysterical.
There you go.
But I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that decision alone by President Trump bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. And I believe it saved hundreds of thousands of American lives. Because with that time, we were able to reinvent testing.
Just
More than
remember,
115
just in case
million
you
tests have been done
didn't
today.
remember,
We were able to see to the
at
delivery of
this
billions of
particular
supplies
time
so
that
our
he's talking
doctors and
about,
nurses had
just
the
after
resources support
the
they needed.
travel ban, right
And we
around that
began,
time,
really, before
the
the month of February
scientists
was hard
that
to
the
develop a
left
vaccine
claims
and
to
develop
praise,
medicines and
Dr. Fauci,
therapeutics
the
that
great
saved
and wonderful
lives all
Dr.
along the
Fauci,
way.
said
Under
2
President Trump's
million
leadership, Operation Warp
Americans
Speed, we
were going to
believe
die
we'll have
of COVID-19.
literally tens of millions of doses of vaccine
Just
before the end
remember
of this
that.
year.
And
The reality is, when you look at the Biden
210,000 have
plan,
died
it
at
reads
this
an
point.
awful lot
Don't get me wrong.
like
I'm
what
not
President
saying that
Trump and I and our
anybody
task
should
force
have
been doing
died
every step of the way.
as a result of
And
this
quite frankly,
virus, but I think
when I look at their plan, it
210,000
talks
is
about
quite a
advancing
bit better
testing,
than
creating
2
PPE,
million.
developing a vaccine. It looks a little bit like plagiarism, which is something Joe Biden knows a little bit about. I think the American people know that this is a president who has put the
Thank you,
health
Vice
of America first.
Zing.
And the American people, I believe with my heart, can be
Thank you,
proud
Vice
of the
President.
sacrifices they have made. It's saved
Thank you,
countless
Mr.
American
President.
lives.
Senator Harris, would you like to respond?
Absolutely.
Oh, of course. Why not give her a chance to respond? I'll bet you don't give Pence the chance
When
to
you're looking at
respond.
over 210,000 dead bodies in our country, American lives that have been lost, families that are grieving.
Oh,
that
don't
loss.
talk to me about
And, you know,
families losing and grieving
the
when
Vice
you've
President is the head of the
encouraged,
task
openly
force.
encouraged
And
BLM
knew
riots
on
and
January 28th
peaceful
how serious this was.
protests
And then big
that have
thanks to
killed,
Bob Woodward.
what, 30
We
some
learned
odd people now,
that they knew
like
about it, and then
1,500
when that was
officers in
exposed,
critical condition,
The Vice
$2
President
million
said, when asked,
in
"Well, why
damages.
didn't y'all tell anybody?"
I don't think you need to be
He
talking
said, "Because the
anything
president wanted people
about
to remain
what
calm."
the harm
Well, let's
that's
go
going on.
But Susan, this is important.
Susan,
I
I
want to
have
add,
to
but
weigh in
if, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I have to
I'm
weigh
speaking.
Yeah, you
So
can
I-
have 15
I
more
wanna-
seconds, and then
Wow.
we'll give the Vice President
Thank
a
you.
chance to
So I
respond.
want to ask the American people.
Yeah, let's
how
just give her
calm
all
were
the
you
time in
when
the
you
world to
panicked about
talk.
Where you're going to get your next roll of toilet paper? How calm were you when your kids were sent home from school and you didn't know when they could go back? How calm
Thank
were
you.
you
Thank
when
you,
your
Senator
children
Harris.
couldn't see your parents because
Okay,
you were
hey,
afraid they could
you
kill
stopped him.
Let's give Vice
Stop
President
her
Pence
for
a
crying
chance to
out
respond.
loud.
Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute to
You know,
respond.
there's not a day gone by that I haven't thought of every American family that's lost a loved one. And I want all of you to know that you'll always be in our hearts and in our prayers. But when you say what the American people have done over these last 8 months hasn't worked, that's a great disservice to the sacrifices the American people have made. The reality, if I may finish, Senator, the reality is, Dr. Fauci said,
Her and that
everything
godforsaken,
that he told the president in the Oval Office, the
stupid
president told the American
grin,
Now, President
smile,
Trump, I will tell you,
laugh
has
that she
boundless
does.
confidence in
God,
the American people, and he
she
always
just
spoke with confidence
bugs
that
the
we get through this together. But when you
God
say
F
it
out of
hasn't
me.
worked, when Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx and our medical experts came to us in the second week of March, they said if the president didn't take the unprecedented step of shutting down roughly half of the American economy, that we could lose 2.2 million Americans. Now, that's the reality.
Thank you.
They also
Thank you,
said
Vice
to us if we
President
did everything right, Susan, we could still lose more than 200,000 Americans.
Vice
Now,
President
one
Pence.
life lost is too
Thank you.
many, Susan. But the American people, I believe,
I think
deserve credit.
to Pence's credit, he is hammering a point, and he is talking
Thank you, Vice President.
factually. His problem is that he needs
Vice
to be
President,
short,
you were in the front
concise.
row
He needs
in
to be a little
Rose
more
Garden event
concise.
11 days ago, what seems to have been a super spreader event for senior administration and congressional officials.
Super spreader.
No
Oh
social
my
distancing,
God.
few masks, and now a cluster of coronavirus cases among those
A
who are there.
cluster? I mean, come
How
on.
can you expect
There's like
Americans
a
to
handful
follow the
tops.
administration's
And
safety
I'm
guidelines
still
to
not
protect
convinced
themselves
that it's
from
not
COVID?
Democrats that
When you at the
forcefully
White House
inflicted it
conducted
on the White House, to be perfectly honest.
Well, the
I'm not a
American
conspiracy
people
nut or
have
anything,
demonstrated
but it's
over the
awfully
last 8
ironic that right after
that when given the
Donald
facts,
Trump
they're willing to put the health of their
steamrolled
families and their
Joe
neighbors and people
Biden
they don't even
in
know
the
for.
presidential debate, that
President
all of a
Trump and I
sudden
have great confidence in
everybody
the
came down.
American
And it's
people
all Republicans.
and their ability
And the
to take that
Democrats just got
information
done saying
and put it into
everything's
practice.
on the table
In the
if
height
he
of the
nominates
epidemic,
a
when we
Supreme
were
Court
losing
justice. We have arrows in the quiver. I mean, I'll show you
2,500
everything.
Americans a day.
They've been
We
saying
surged
it
resources
ever
to New
since
Jersey,
the
New York,
Ruth Bader
New Orleans,
Ginsburg
and
death.
Detroit. We told the
And
American people what needed
all
to
of a
be done.
sudden,
The American
I mean,
people made the sacrifice.
at the height
When the outbreak in the
of the
Sun Belt happened, we said,
coronavirus,
again,
back
Americans
2-3
stepped
months ago,
forward.
when
But the
10,000
reality is
people
the
were
work
dying a day,
of the
it seemed
President of
like
the United States
he
goes
was
on.
doing the exact same
The
thing,
vacancy on the
and
Supreme
not
Court of the United States
tested negative, tested negative,
has come
tested
upon
negative.
us. The
Kaylee
President
tested
introduced
negative.
Judge Amy
Everybody was
Conrad.
tested negative. Now all of a sudden,
At that
everybody
fundraiser,
popped
that
up
Rose Garden
positive.
event,
I mean, it's
there's been
just a
great
bit
deal of
ironic to
speculation
me.
about it. My wife Karen and I were there and honored to be there. Many of the people who were at that event, Susan, actually were tested for coronavirus. And
Exactly.
it was an outdoor event, which all of our
That's
scientists
what the
regularly
scientists have been
routinely
saying.
advise.
That I remember when he had the rally in Tulsa. That was what all the leftists were saying. All the liberals were screaming, "If you did it outdoors, it'd be okay. It's okay for Black Lives Matter to run around the streets and paint Black Lives Matter all over the streets because they're outside. It's okay." But
Thank you. Thank you.
Donald Trump now, he's outside, and all of a sudden it's not a good thing.
Let's talk about respecting the American people.
Yeah,
You
something
respect
you
the
don't
American people when
do.
you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have the courage
Which we've
to be a
always done.
leader.
He told them
speaking
the
of
truth.
those things that you may not want people
Oh,
to
my
hear, but
Lord.
they need to hear so they can protect themselves. But this administration,
Even Dr.
stood on
Fauci,
information
even
that if
Dr.
you had
Fauci
as a
said
parent,
in an
if you had as
interview
a worker,
after the
knowing you didn't
Woodward
have enough
tapes
money saved
came
up,
out,
and now you're
even he
standing in
said
a
that there
food
was
line
not much discrepancy between
because
what
of the
they told Trump
ineptitude
and what Trump ultimately told
administration
the
that was
American
unwilling
people.
to
Of
speak the
course, he
truth to the
played it
American
down just a
people.
little to
So
keep
let's
panic.
talk about
I mean,
caring
for
about the
Christ's
American
sakes,
people. The American
America
people have
ran out of
sacrificed far
toilet
too
paper
much because of the incompetence
over
of this
something.
administration. It
You
is
know,
asking
like,
too much of the
what
people.
did you
It
expect
is
him to
asking
do?
Too much of the people. That they would not be equipped with the information they need to help themselves to protect their
Just so you
parents
guys
and
know,
their
I'm
children.
sorry.
I don't
Kamala Harris,
condone
Senator Harris, I mean, I'm sorry.
smoking.
Fine, I'm Kamala.
No,
If you don't want to
Senator
smoke,
Harris
don't
to me.
smoke. But I
I'd
have
like
to
get back
smoke
to
with this
normal.
because this is
Dr. Anthony
riding on my
Fauci and other
nerves already,
experts
and we're
say
like
that
10
most of the
minutes
people
in.
who can be vaccinated need to be vaccinated. But half of Americans now say they wouldn't take a vaccine if it was released now. If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election, should Americans take it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it.
Oh,
Absolutely. But if
bullshit.
Donald Trump tells us that we should
Pardon
take it,
my
I'll not
language,
take it.
folks. I'm gonna probably
Vice
cuss a lot,
President Pence,
just
there have been a lot
as
of
you know,
repercussions
but that is
from this
complete and
pandemic.
utter
In recent days,
bull.
the president's
She
diagnosis of
just said,
COVID-19
and I'll
has
bring it up
underscored
here
the
in just a second.
importance
I'll bring
of
it
the
up.
job
She
that you
specifically
hold
said
in
that
the
she
U.S.
didn't trust Donald
That's our
Trump
second
and that
topic
she would
tonight.
not take
It's
a
the role
vaccine
of the Vice
during a
President.
Trump administration.
One of you will make history on
Just so
January
you know.
20th. You will be the vice president to the oldest president the United States has ever had. Donald Trump will be 74 years old on Inauguration Day. Joe Biden will be 78 years old.
And he's
That
been
already
in
has
the
raised
Senate for
concerns
180
among some
years,
voters,
just so you know.
concerns that have been sharpened by President Trump's hospitalization in recent days. Vice President Pence, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with President Trump about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability?
I think over the last week,
think you should?
I think
You
we've
have 2
proven that
minutes to
Donald
answer
Trump
that
doesn't need safeguards
Well, Susan,
because he
thank
kicked
you. I would like
COVID's
to
ass
go back.
in 3 days.
I think
I mean,
we
yeah,
will
he
move
still
on
has
to
it and
the
he's still
issue.
I would like
quarantined,
to
but
go back.
I mean, he's doing
Because
pretty daggum good. He looked
reality
pretty
is that
brisk
we're
walking
going to
across
have a
the front
vaccine
lawn
that's
coming
in
out of the
record
hospital.
time, in unheard of time, in less than a year. We have 5 companies in phase 3 clinical trials, and we're right now producing tens of millions of doses. So the fact that you continue to undermine public confidence in a vaccine, if the vaccine emerges during the
exactly
Trump
what he needs to
administration,
do.
I think
He needs
is
to hammer the
unconscionable.
fact that they are
And Senator, I
constantly
just ask you,
against Donald Trump,
stop playing
strictly
politics with
because
people's
they
lives.
hate Donald Trump.
The reality is that we will have a vaccine, we believe, before the end of this year. And it will have the capacity to save countless American lives. And your continuous undermining of confidence in a vaccine is just, it's just unacceptable. And let me also say, you know, the reality is when you talk about failure in this administration, we actually do know what failure looks like in a pandemic. It was 2009. The swine flu arrived in the United States. Thankfully,
Yes.
it ended up not being as lethal as the coronavirus. But before the end of the year, when Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, not 7.5 million people contracted the swine flu. 60 million Americans contracted the swine flu. If the
Can't
swine
argue
flu had
with
been
numbers,
as lethal
folks.
as the coronavirus,
Can't
in
argue with the numbers.
2009, when Joe Biden was vice president, we would have lost 2 million American lives. His own chief of staff, Ron Klain, would say last year that it was pure luck that they did, quote, everything possible wrong. And we learned from that. They left the strategic national stockpile empty. They left an empty and hollow plan.
Yep.
But we
Thank you,
still
Vice
learned
President
from it.
Pence.
And I think
Vice
the
President
American
Pence,
Oh
your
yeah,
time is up.
cut him off when he starts
Vice
making
President Pence, I'm
points.
sorry, your
That's
time
we
is
have
up.
done.
good job.
And Senator, please
Thank you, Vice
stop
President
undermining
Pence.
confidence in a vaccine.
Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked
Sure.
Vice President Pence, which is, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with Vice President Biden about safeguards or
Yeah.
procedures when it
Have
comes
you
to the
talked
issue
about it?
of presidential disability? And if not,
Have you talked about
and
it?
if you
Because
win
you
the
already
election
call it
next
the
month,
Harris
do you
administration.
think you
I'll
should?
bet you
have
have.
2 minutes uninterrupted.
So let me tell you, first of all, the day I got the call from Joe Biden, it was actually a Zoom call, asking me to serve with him on this ticket was probably one of the most memorable days of my life. I thought about my mother.
Are you going to answer the question, or are you going to give us
Came to
a
the United States at the age of 19.
autobiography here?
Gave birth to me at the age of 25 at Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, California.
What is she talking about?
And the thought that I'd be sitting here right now, I know would make her proud. She must be looking down on that.
Fantastic. Have you talked to Joe Biden
Joe
yet?
and I were raised in a very similar way. We were raised with values that are about hard work, about the value and the dignity of public service, and about the importance of fighting for the dignity of all people. And I think Joe asked me to serve with him because, I have a career that included being elected the first woman district attorney of San Francisco, where I created models
career.
of innovation
Yeah, all right.
for law enforcement in terms
We
of
know how you
reform of
got the
criminal justice
career,
system. I was
Kamala. Don't
elected,
worry.
The first woman of color and black woman.
Don't forget
be
to
elected
mention
Attorney
that
General of the
you
state of
you
California,
incarcerated
where I ran the second largest
thousands
Department of Justice in the United States.
of
Second only to the United
non-violent
States
drug
Department of Justice.
offenders.
And there I took on
The vast
everything
majority
from
being
transnational
African
criminal
American.
organizations to the
Let's
big
not
banks
forget
were
that.
taking advantage of homeowners, to for-profit colleges that were taking advantage of veterans. And then, of course, now I serve in the United States Senate as only the second black woman ever elected to the United States Senate. I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee, where I've been in regular receipt of classified information about threats to our nation and hotspots around the world.
While she's babbling, because obviously she's not going to answer the question, why is it that the Democrats are the only party that says race, sex, gender, all that shouldn't be an issue, shouldn't be even thought of. Everybody should be equal, but they're the only ones that bring up race. She didn't even answer the question.
Released a sort of detailed health information that had become the modern norm until the 2016 election. And in recent days, President Trump's doctors have given misleading answers or refused to answer basic questions about his health. And my question to each
They
of
didn't
you in turn
refuse to
is
give
this
information. They
voters
refused to release his
deserve?
medical
Vice President
record
Pence, would you like to
because it's doctor-patient confidentiality.
And let me say, on behalf of the President and the First Lady, how moved we've all been by the outpouring of prayers and concern for the President. And I do believe it's emblematic of the prayers and the concern that have ushered forth for every American impacted by the coronavirus.
You know, this is so
care the
ridiculous.
President
The
received
media
at Walter Reed Hospital,
stood outside
White House
Walter Reed
doctors was
Hospital
exceptional.
and asked the
Transparency
doctor
that they practiced all
simply
along the way
to
will
see
continue.
lung scans,
people
and the
have
doctor
a
said,
right to
I
know
can't
about the
release
health
those because of
the
doctor-patient
President.
privilege, doctor-patient
And I'm just
confidentiality.
extremely grateful
And
was
now, for
more
some
than-
reason,
more than a little
that's
moved,
just
by the
absurd.
broad
They
and
can't
bipartisan
think of that.
support. And,
Like,
Senator, I wanna
he
thank you
didn't
and Joe Biden for
refuse,
your
he
expressions
answered
of
it.
genuine
I can play you
concern.
the clip right now.
I also
He
wanna congratulate
answered
you,
it specifically.
as
They
I
asked,
did on that phone
has he
call,
been on a ventilator?
on
Or has
the
he
historic
been on
nature of
oxygen?
your
Excuse me.
nomination.
He said, no, he's not
I
on
never
oxygen right now.
expected to
They
be
said,
on this
was
stage
he on
4 years
oxygen?
ago,
He
so
said
I know the
that he
feeling.
had a spurt
But,
of oxygen that he
the
needed
reality is,
previously.
we've got an
It,
election
just because
before
you
the
want to
American
see it,
people.
you
It's
can't
the
just
most
raise your hand,
challenging year.
I want to see his
The stakes
medical
have never
records.
been
You can't
higher.
do
Thank
that.
you, Vice
It's
President. I
illegal.
want to give Senator Harris a chance to respond to the same question I asked, which is, do voters have a right to know more detailed health information
No,
about presidential
they
candidates, and
don't.
especially about
They don't.
presidents,
They have a right to
especially
the doctor
when they're facing
giving
this
them
kind of challenge?
updates
Absolutely.
and
that's
letting
why
them
Joe
know
Biden
what
has
he
been so
can and
incredibly
what he
transparent, and
can
certainly
let
by
them know.
contrast,
They don't have a right to
President
see
has
his
not,
private medical
both in
record.
terms of health
Okay?
records, but also let's look
I
at
can't
taxes.
just walk into a hospital
now know
and say,
because of great
I'd like to see
investigative journalism
Billy Joe
that Donald
Bob's
Trump
medical
paid
record. That's, you can't
$750
do
in
that.
taxes. When I first heard about it, I literally said, you mean $750,000? And it was like, no, $750. We now know Donald Trump owes
Why is she going off
and
on
is in debt
taxes?
for $400 million. And just so everyone is clear, when we say in debt, it means you owe money to somebody. And it'd be really good to know who the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, owes money to, because the American people have a right to know.
No, they
What
don't
is in
have a right to
context
know. Just like with the
President's
hospital
decisions,
records,
and is he
they don't
making
have a
those
right to
decisions
know
on the best
his
interest of the
private
American people,
financial
of you,
information.
or self-interest?
He
So,
doesn't
Susan,
have to
I'm glad
read
you asked
nowhere.
about transparency.
Nowhere
Because
in
it
the
has to be across
Constitution
the
does it
board.
state that
Joe has
that
been
a
incredibly
president or a
transparent
presidential
over
candidate, for
many,
that matter,
many
has to
years.
release their
The one
tax
thing we all
records
know about
to the
Joe,
public.
he puts it all
Okay?
out there.
He
is honest,
but
he is
he
forthright,
did release
but Donald Trump,
thousands
on
of
the other hand, has been
pages
about covering
of
up
his
everything.
financial
Thanks.
reports
Thank you,
over the
Senator
last
Harris. I want to give you a
20 or
chance to
30
respond,
years.
Vice President.
Well,
He's
look,
released
I respect
that.
the fact that Joe Biden spent 47 years in public life. I respect your public service as well.
Yeah, 47 years and he hasn't done dick.
He was a businessman. He's a job creator. Who's paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes, payroll taxes, property taxes. He's created tens of thousands of American jobs. And the president said those public reports are not accurate. And the president's
You can
also
only go off
released
of what he
literal
says,
stacks of
because
financial
because
disclosures
the
the American
leftists
people
like to
review
claim
just as the law allows. But
anonymous
the distinction
sources
here is
that
Joe
confirmed
Biden,
that
47
anonymous
years
sources
in
said that. I
public
still
service
haven't seen
compared to President
any
Donald Trump, who brought all
actual
of that
source
experience 4 years
for
ago.
that New York
Thank you,
Times
Vice President.
Turned this economy around by
article
cutting taxes,
saying that he
rolling
only
back
paid
regulations,
$750 in
Vice
taxes.
fighting
I
for
still
free and
haven't
fair
seen it.
trade, and all of that's
Thank
on
you,
the
Vice
line
President
if
Pence.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris.
You know, that's a
are in
good
the White House.
segue into our third
great
topic,
segue.
which is about
Shut
the
up,
economy.
Kamala.
This
You're
has
an
been another
idiot.
aspect of life for Americans that's been so affected by this coronavirus. We have a jobs crisis brewing. On Friday, we learned that the unemployment rate had declined to 7.9% in September, but the job growth had stalled, and that was before the latest round of layoffs and furloughs in the airline industry at Disney.
Because
and
of the
elsewhere.
Democratic
Hundreds of
shutdowns.
thousands of discouraged workers have stopped looking for work. Nearly 11 million
Because
jobs
of
that
the
existed at
Democratic
beginning of the year
shutdowns.
haven't been replaced. Those hardest hit include Latinos, blacks, and women. Senator Harris, the Biden-Harris campaign has proposed new programs to boost the economy, and you would pay for that new spending by raising $4 trillion in taxes on wealthy individuals and corporations. Some economists warn that could curb entrepreneurial ventures that fuel growth.
Well, I can see
and
they're
create
not going to
jobs.
mention it, so I'll
Would
mention it.
raising taxes
Prior
put the
to
recovery at
this
risk? And you have 2 minutes to
pandemic,
answer uninterrupted.
you have to take
On the issue of the
credit
economy, I
and give
think
it to
there's gonna be a
Donald
more
Trump for
fundamental
having
difference
the
between
booming
Donald
economy
Trump
that he
and Joe
had,
Biden.
lowest unemployment,
Joe Biden
lowest
believes you
black
measure
and,
the
and
health
minority
and strength
unemployment,
of America's
highest
economy
work
based on the
inclusion,
health and the
highest
strength of the American
GDP.
worker
I mean,
and the American
you
family.
you can't say
On the other hand, you have
Well,
Donald Trump,
uh,
who measures the strength of the economy.
right now we have such
based
a
on how
horrible
rich
economy.
people are
Well,
doing.
you're absolutely right, but we're
Which is
also in the
why
middle
he
of a
passed a
pandemic in
tax
which
bill
you guys
benefiting
shut
the top
everything
1%
down.
and the
You
biggest
caused the
corporations of
unemployment
America,
spike. You
leading
caused
to
the stock
a
markets to
$2
go down.
trillion
You
deficit
caused
that the American people now have
unemployment
pay
to be
for. On
uh,
day one, Joe Biden
13%.
will repeal that tax bill.
We've
He'll get
since
rid of it.
dropped it down
And what
to
he'll do with
8.
the money is invest it in
Barack
the American
Obama,
people.
in
And
his
through a plan
first
that is
term,
about investing
for
in infrastructure,
over a
something that
year,
Donald Trump
had
said he would do. I remember
9%
hearing about some infrastructure
unemployment
McDonald's
rate for
program.
over a year.
But Joe Biden will do
But
that.
they won't
He'll
talk
invest
about
in
that.
infrastructure. It's about upgrading our roads and bridges, but also investing in clean energy and renewable energy. Joe is going to invest that money in what we need to do around innovation. There was a time when our country
Trillions of
believed in
dollars for the
science
Green New Deal.
and invested in research and development so that we were an innovation leader on the
We
globe.
are an
Joe
innovation
Biden will
leader.
use
We've
that
been
money
an
to invest
innovation
in
leader.
education. So, for example, for folks who want to go to a 2-year community college, it will be free. If you come from a family
And who's
that
gonna
makes less
pay
than
for that?
$125,000,
Money doesn't just
you'll
grow
go to
on
a
trees,
public
sweetheart.
university for free. And across the board, we'll make sure that
How
if
are
you
you
have
gonna
student
pay
loan
for it?
debt, it's cut by $10,000.
How are
That's
you
how
going to
Joe
pay
Biden
for it?
thinks about the economy, which is it's about investing in the people of our
How are
country, as
you
opposed to
and
passing
Joe
a tax
Biden going to
bill
pay? Is he going
which
to
had the
pay it out of
benefit
pocket?
of
I'm
letting American
confused.
corporations go
Nobody has
offshore
ever
to do
held
their
them to
business.
this, and they have yet to
Thank you.
answer it
You're
since
welcome,
the
Harris.
Green New
Vice
Deal
President
thing
Pence, your
started, since the
administration
free
has been
healthcare
predicting a
thing,
rapid and
since
robust
the
recovery.
free
But the
college.
latest economic report
Nobody
suggests
has
that's
ever
not happening.
been able to say,
Should Americans be
how is it
braced
going to get paid
an
for?
economic comeback that
I'll
is
tell
gonna
you
take
how it's
not
going to get
months,
paid for.
but a
They're going to
year
raise
or more?
taxes
You have 2
because
minutes to answer
they can't just
uninterrupted.
grow $100 bills on the tree
President Trump
outside
announced
and hand them
office,
out to people.
America had gone through the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. So when Joe Biden was vice president, they tried to tax and spend and regulate and bail our way back to a growing economy.
American
President Trump
Airlines,
cut
4
taxes
times.
across the board. Despite what Senator Harris says, the average American family of 4 had $2,000 in savings and taxes. And with the rise in wages that occurred, most predominantly for blue-collar, hard-working Americans, the average household income for a family of 4 increased by $4,000 following President Trump's tax cuts. But America, you just heard Senator Harris tell you, on day one, Joe Biden's going to raise your taxes. It's
Exactly.
really remarkable to think. I mean,
That
right
is
after
exactly what you
a
said.
time where we're going
That is
through a
exactly
pandemic
what you
that
said,
lost
because
22
money doesn't
million
grow
jobs.
on trees.
We've already added back 11.6 million jobs because we had a president who cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, fought for free and fair trade, and secured $4 trillion from the Congress of the United States. to give
And it's a
direct payments to
proven fact,
families,
by the way,
save 50
that the
million
average
jobs through the
American
Paycheck
household
Protection
under
Program.
the President
We literally
Trump's
spared no
administration
expense to help the American
saw
people and the
an
American
average of
families. Joe Biden and Kamala
$1,100
Harris want to raise
more
taxes.
on
They
their
want to bury our
paychecks
economy under a $2
due to the
trillion
tax
Green New
cuts
Deal,
that he
which you were one of
passed.
the original co-sponsors of in the United States Senate. They want to abolish fossil fuels and ban fracking, which would cost hundreds of thousands of American jobs all across the heartland. And Joe Biden wants to go back to the economic surrender to China, that when we took office, half of our international trade deficit was with China alone. And Joe Biden wants to repeal all of the tariffs that President Trump put into effect to fight for American jobs and American workers. Joe Biden says democracy's on the ballot. Make no mistake about it, Susan. The American economy, the American comeback is on the ballot with 4 more years of growth and opportunity, 4 more years of President Donald Trump. 2021 is going to be the biggest economic year in the history of this country.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Senator Harris.
The look on her face.
I saw enough of it in last week's debate, but I think this is supposed to be a debate based on fact and truth. And the truth and the fact is, Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000.
He said it. He said it. It's on video. Him saying it. I will play it. Just a second.
The truth. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. That was tax cuts that gave the average working family $2,000 in a tax break every single year. Senator,
that is absolutely not true.
Is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
If you don't mind letting me finish, we can have a conversation. Okay?
Please.
Okay.
Okay? Shut up.
Joe Biden will not raise taxes on anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year.
But guess what? If you elect me, you're not going to have your taxes are going to be raised, not cut. If you benefit from that.
He has been very clear about that.
So how is he going to repeal the tax cut? Because the tax cut was for people under $400,000 a year.
Is the one who, during the,
leave it up to Joe Biden. I guarantee you,
responsible
this was him during
for
that
the
conversation.
that brought America
I'm
back,
gonna
and now
I'm
the Trump
gonna raise taxes
Pence
on
administration wants to take
everybody. How much do I make a year?
When they rode the
400,000.
coattails of Joe Biden's
Less than
success,
400,000,
with the
you're not
economy
going to
that they
get
had
touched.
at the
Of course, it
beginning
would be
their
that,
term.
because
Of
that's
course, now
what
the economy
you
is a
make.
complete disaster. But Joe Biden, on the one hand, did that. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who has reigned over a recession that is being compared to the Great Depression.
That you guys caused.
Who was responsible with President Barack Obama for the Affordable Care Act, which brought health care to over 20 million Americans and protected people with pre-existing conditions. And what it also did,
and it also cost
saved those
over
families
200,000 people their
because of
doctor.
hospital bills they could not afford.
You
On the
can't
other
have
hand, you
can't
Donald Trump,
have
who's in court
pre-existing
right now, trying to
mixed
get rid
with
of-
regular,
trying
because
to
that
get rid
raises
of
everybody's
the
rates.
Affordable Care Act,
Just like
which means
everybody
that
saw
you will lose
a
protections
multiple
if you have
100%
pre-existing conditions, and
increase
this is
in their
very important,
deductible
Susan. Yes, and it's-
under
we need to
Obamacare.
give Vice President
I'd just like to, he interrupted me, and I'd like to just finish, please. If you have a pre-existing condition, heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer, they're coming for you.
No, he's not.
If you
He
love someone
specifically
who has a
said
pre-existing
that he
condition,
is going to
they
cover
are
that
coming
in
for you.
his plan.
If you are under
And
the
then
age of
he's going to
26 and
gut
your
all the
parents
bad
covered,
stuff
they're
that
coming for you.
Obamacare
Senator
had.
Harris, thank you. Let me give you a chance to respond.
Well, I hope we have a chance to talk about health care, because Obamacare was a disaster.
Yes, it was.
People remember it well.
You know how many people
President Trump and I
lost
have a plan
in their entire ability to have Medicare, and then you force them to pay up to $900 a year in penalties because they couldn't afford it.
You yourself said on multiple occasions when you were running for president that you would ban fracking. Joe Biden
has said he was going to ban fracking. That's on video. I'll play that in just a second.
That we will abolish fossil fuels. They have a $2 trillion version of the Green New Deal, Susan, that your newspaper, USA Today, said really wasn't that very different.
No new fracking. We are going to get rid of fossil fuels.
Well, like, what about, say, stopping fracking and stopping new pipe?
Would there be any place for fossil fuels, including coal and fracking, in a Biden administration?
No, we would work it out. We would make sure it's eliminated. I guarantee you, we're going to end fossil fuel, and I am not going to cooperate. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period. Ends.
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. So, yeah.
Hurricanes in the south. Another one, Hurricane Delta, is now threatening the Gulf. And we have seen record-setting wildfires in the west. Do you believe, as the scientific community has concluded, that man-made climate change has made wildfires bigger, hotter, and more deadly, and have made hurricanes wetter, slower,
Way to
and more
get that
damaging.
that
You have 2 minutes.
live stream to mess up.
Thank you, Susan. Well, first, I'm very proud of our record on the environment and on conservation. According to all of the best estimates, our air and land are cleaner than any time ever recorded. Our water is among the cleanest in the world. And just a little while ago, the President signed the Outdoors Act. It's the largest investment in our public lands and public parks in 100 years. So President Trump has made a commitment to conservation and to the environment. Now, with regard to climate change, the climate is changing. But the issue is,
it does that.
what's the cause and what do we do about it? President Trump has made it clear that we're going to continue to listen to the science. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would put us back in the Paris Climate Accord. They'd impose the Green New Deal, which would crush American energy, would increase the energy costs of American families in their homes.
You know, on this Green New Deal thing, I love it because they're so anti-nuclear, anti-fossil fuel usage, but they don't ever tell you that to use the other factors that they want to use actually is worse for the environment. Just like your electric cars, your smart cars, they actually are worse for the environment than regular gas cars when you take into consideration what they have to do to get those resources and use them in the batteries and all that. They actually are worse for the environment than gasoline-fueled cars.
By creating the kind of American innovation, we're actually steering toward a stronger and better environment. With regard to wildfires, President Trump and I believe that forest management has to be front and center, and even Governor Gavin Newsom from your state has agreed we've got to work on forest management. And with regard to hurricanes, the National Oceanic Administration tells us that actually as difficult as they are,
Thank you, Vice President.
there are no more hurricanes.
Are you ever going to let him finish a thought, a sentence
Many
here?
of the
Because
climate
you've cut him
alarmists
off I don't
use
know how many
hurricanes
times
and
now.
to try and
Thank
sell
you,
their
Vice
bill of
President.
goods of
Yes.
a Green New Deal. And President Trump and I are
Let's
always
toss it to Kamala and let her
President
take a
Trump
5-minute
first.
gander at it.
Senator Harris, as the Vice President mentioned, you co-sponsored the Green New Deal in Congress. But Vice President Biden said in last week's debate that he does not support the Green New Deal. But if you look at the Biden-Harris campaign website, it describes the Green New Deal as a crucial framework. What exactly would be the stance of a Biden-Harris administration toward the Green New Deal? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. So, first of all, I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking.
Yes,
That
he
is a
will.
fact.
He specifically said
is
it
a
on
fact.
video. I just
I
showed
will
it.
repeat
You ignoramus.
that
He
Joe Biden
just
has been
I
very
just showed it.
That
He
thinks about
he has said it
growing
on
jobs,
several
which is why he will
occasions.
not increase
First he
taxes
said
for
he was
anyone
going to
who makes
ban
less
it,
than
outright ban it.
$40,000 a
Then
year.
he said, "Well, we're
Joe
going to
Biden's
phase it
economic
out."
plan,
And then at the
Moody's,
presidential debate,
which is a
he
reputable
then
Wall
said,
Street
"I'm
firm,
not going to ban
has said
fracking."
we'll create 7
That's
million more
BS, and
jobs
anybody who
than
believes
Donald
it's
Trump's.
not BS is
And
blind,
part of those
stupid,
jobs that will be
dumb,
created
or
by
all
Joe
three.
Biden are going to be about clean energy and renewable energy. Because you see, Joe understands that the west coast of our country is burning, including my home state of California. Joe sees what is happening on the Gulf states, which are being battered by storms. Joe has seen and
You mean the
talked
same
with
storms that
farmers in
happen
Iowa.
every
Entire
year?
crops have been destroyed
The
because
same
of
ones.
floods.
Let's not talk about
So
the
Joe
fact that
believes, again,
that
in
they're
science. I'll
having
tell you
record
something, Susan.
crop
I served when I first
gain
got to the Senate
in the
on
Midwest.
committee that's
That
responsible
the
for
Great Lakes are
environment.
higher
this
than they've ever
administration
been.
Took
That's
the
a
word
fact.
science off the website, and then took the phrase climate change off the website. We have seen a pattern with this administration, which is they don't believe in science. And Joe's
Let's
plan
talk about
is
science.
saying we're
What's
gonna deal
science
with
say
it, but we're
about
also
boys
gonna
and
create
girls?
jobs. Donald Trump, when asked
What
about
does
wildfires
science
in
say
California,
about
and
the
question was,
gender
the
or
scientists
sex
says, you know what
of a
Donald Trump
human
said?
being?
Science doesn't
XX
know.
and XY chromosomes.
So let's
What
talk
is
about who
what
is
does
prepared
science
to
say
lead
about
our
that,
country
Kamala?
over the course of the next 4 years on what is
You know,
an existential threat
liberals
to
are the
us as
stupidest
human
group
beings.
of people
Joe
I've
is
ever
about
seen. I
saying we're
swear
gonna
to God.
invest that in renewable
They are the
energy,
only
it's gonna
group
be
of
about the
people
creation
that
of
could
millions of
say
jobs. We will will achieve
we believe in science.
net,
If you don't believe
zero
in
emissions
climate
by
change, you're a
2050,
science denier.
carbon
But as
neutral by
soon as a
2035,
pro-life
Joe
person
has a plan.
says that a
This has been a
fetus
lot of talk
is a
since the
human
Trump
life,
administration, and really
they don't believe
it's
in
been to
science
go
no more.
backwards
As soon as a
instead of
conservative
forward.
says
We will
that
also
a
re-enter the
boy
climate agreement with
cannot
pride.
genetically
Senator
be a
Harris just said that
girl,
climate change is an
and vice
existential
versa,
threat.
they don't believe
Vice
in
President
science
Pence, do you
then.
believe that climate change poses an existential threat?
As I said, Susan, the climate is changing. We'll follow the science. But once again, Senator Harris is denying the fact that they're going to raise taxes on every American. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that on day one he was going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. Those tax cuts,
That's exactly what he said.
$2,000
Except it's not day one, it's day
to the average family of
5,212,001. It's 74 years or 72 years or whatever it is, and one day. That's what it is. Because he's been in Senate for the last 30 some odd years and didn't manage to do anything. Now all of a sudden he's going to do it.
And as USA Today said, it's essentially the same plan as you co-sponsored with AOC when she submitted it in the Senate. And you just heard the senator say that she's going to resubmit America to the Paris
He's getting her on the ropes. He's getting her.
The American people have always cherished our environment. We'll continue to cherish it. We've made great progress reducing CO2 emissions through American innovation and the development of natural gas through fracking. We don't need a massive $2 trillion Green New Deal that would impose all new mandates on
See, the reason that they're all backing off of this fracking thing is because they went hard in the paint for it, and then Americans, people, the normal people, started realizing that fracking is actually better for the environment, and now they have to backpedal and say, well, we don't want to end fracking, we don't want to ban fracking, when they clearly have said it for the last couple years at least.
As part of what he thinks is an accomplishment, the president's trade war with China. You lost that trade war. You lost.
How did we lose?
What ended up happening is because of a so-called trade war with China, America lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs. Farmers have experienced
We have literally
bankruptcy
brought more
because of it.
manufacturing jobs
We are
back in the last 3 years than
because of
Obama shipped out
And when we
in
look
8
at
years.
where this administration has been, there are estimates that by the end of the term of this administration, they will have lost more jobs than almost any other presidential administration.
Because of
and the American
COVID.
people know what I'm talking about.
The
You
pandemic
know. I think
lost
about
jobs.
20-year-olds. You know,
It's
we
not
have
like
a
we lost
20-year-old,
jobs during a
a
regular old
20-something-year-old
year.
who are
We've
coming
been
out of high
shut
school and
down all
college right
year
now,
because
and
of
you're
you
wondering, is there going
guys.
to be a job there for me? We're looking at people who are trying to figure out how they're going to pay rent by the end of the month. Almost half of American renters are worried about whether they're going to be able to pay rent by the end of the month. This is where the economy is in America right now, and it is because
You guys
of
caused
the
that because you made everybody shut
and the
everything
failure
down.
of leadership of this administration.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me give you just 15 seconds to respond because then I want to move on to
Well,
Oh, yeah,
I'd
just
love
give
to
15
respond.
seconds.
Look, lost the trade war with China. Joe Biden never fought it. Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China through over the last several decades. And again, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. When Joe Biden
Boom.
was vice president, we
Mic
lost
drop.
200,000 manufacturing
Mic drop.
jobs.
Stop it right
President
there.
Obama said they
Knock
were never
out.
coming back. He said we needed a magic wand to bring them back. In our first 3 years after we cut
Thank
taxes,
you,
rolled
Vice
back
President.
regulation, unleashed American energy, this administration saw
I need to get a
500,000
timer and find out
jobs
exactly
created.
how long they're
And that's
giving him
exactly the
on
kind of growth
time,
we're
because
gonna continue to
I
see
feel
as
like
we
her
bring
2
our nation
minutes
through
Thank you,
are
Vice
this
President.
15 minutes
Green
compared
New
to him.
Deal, your
I don't
Paris
understand.
mandate, your Paris Climate Accord, it's going to kill jobs this time, just like it killed jobs.
I'd
Susan,
like to-
I just need to respond very briefly,
15
please.
seconds.
Oh my God! Let's just give her
Joe
15
Biden
years
is
to
responsible
respond.
for saving America's auto industry, and you voted against it. So let's set the record
You
straight.
guys shipped the automotive industry
I'd like to
out
talk
of the
about
country.
China. We have, as our next topic, we have no more complicated or consequential foreign relationship than the one with China. It is a huge market for American agricultural goods. It's a potential partner in dealing with climate change in North Korea. And in a video tonight, President Trump again blamed it for the coronavirus, saying China will pay. Vice President Pence,
Which
how
he
would you
should.
describe our fundamental relationship with China? Competitors, adversaries, enemies? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Susan. Well, before I leave that, let me speak to voting records if I can. You know, everybody knows that NAFTA cost literally thousands of American factories to close. We saw automotive jobs go south of the border. President Trump fought to renegotiate NAFTA. And the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement is now the law of the land. American people deserve to know Senator Kamala Harris was one of only 10 members of the Senate to vote against the USMCA. It was a huge win for American auto workers. It was a huge win for American farmers, especially dairy in the upper Midwest. But Senator, you said it didn't go far enough on climate change, that you put your radical environmental agenda ahead of American auto workers and ahead of American jobs. I think the American people deserve to know that. Is probably why Newsweek magazine said that Kamala Harris was the most liberal member of the United States Senate in 2019. More liberal than Bernie Sanders. More liberal than any of the others in the United States Senate. So
that,
now, with regard to China,
ladies and gentlemen, was a punch directly to the ovaries of Kamala Harris. Just in case you didn't know. To be called the most liberal person in the Congress or Senate, that speaks volumes, and I hope everybody realizes
our
that.
personnel into China to get information on the coronavirus until the middle of February. Fortunately, President Trump, in dealing with China from the outset of this administration, standing up to China that had been taking advantage of America for decades in the wake of
During Joe Biden, I'm just saying.
President Trump made that decision before the end of January to suspend all travel from China.
Which he was called xenophobic for.
People deserve to know Joe Biden opposed President Trump's decision to suspend all travel from China.
It is a verified fact that he would not have shut off travel, if he even did, until way after, well after, almost a month after Donald Trump shut off travel to China. And then Trump did Europe, Italy, France, all the other locations that were hot spots at the time. Joe Biden said he was hysteria and that he shouldn't shut off travel. It is a point fact proven that he would have cost double, if not triple, the amount of lives that have been lost so far.
American lives, American jobs, and America's standing. There's a weird obsession that President Trump has had with getting rid of whatever accomplishment was achieved by President Obama and Vice President.
What did Obama do with China?
For example,
please.
They created within the White House an office that basically was responsible for monitoring pandemics. They got rid of it.
No. They took and combined different groups so that the communication between said groups would have been more concise. That's what they did. That's what the coronavirus task force is. It's 2 or 3, I believe it's 2, but it could be 3 groups that they had of this many people, this many people, this many people, and they combine them so that they're not having to talk between 4 different groups about one problem. They could all be in the room and talk about that problem.
Manufacturing jobs and a manufacturing recession, and the American consumer paying thousands of dollars more for goods because of that failed war that they called it.
I have not paid a dime more for anything because of the China tariffs. Just so you know. I know it's anecdotal. Matter of fact, second question of the day. Comment down below, message on Facebook or Twitter, and tell me if you've paid more due to the China tariff, between the tariff between us and China. Please tell me, because I would love to know.
This is where we are today because of a failure of leadership by this administration.
Senator Harris, we've seen changes in the role of the United States in terms of global leadership over the past 4 years. And of course, times do change. Sure,
Are they still
definition.
asking her
We've seen
questions?
strains
I
of
don't think I've heard her
as the Vice President
directly, and
mentioned.
correct me
We've
if I'm
seen
wrong.
strains with our
Comment
traditional
down below if
allies
I'm wrong.
in NATO and
But I don't
elsewhere.
think I've
What
heard
is your
her
definition of the
answer
role of
a
American
question
leadership
directly yet.
in 2020?
I don't think I've heard it.
So, you know, Joe is, I love talking with Joe about a lot of these issues. And, you know,
Oh,
Joe,
I'm sure you do.
I think he said it quite well. He says, you know, foreign policy, it might sound complicated, but really it's relationships. So just think about it as relationships.
You're the tug, he's the
And
sniff.
So we know this in our personal
Great-
and professional
great
relationships.
relationship
you gotta keep your word
dynamic.
to your friends. You gotta be loyal to your friends. People who've stood with you, gotta stand with them. You gotta know who your adversaries are and keep them in check.
Where are you
But
going
what
with
we've
this?
seen with Donald Trump
What's your
is
definition
that
of
he
the
has
role of
betrayed our
American
friends
leadership?
and embraced dictators around the world. Let's take, for example, Russia.
Who he's
So,
been twice as hard on
Russia,
as
I
Barack
serve on the
Obama.
Intelligence
Let's go
Committee
back.
of the United
Tell
States
me
Senate.
what Barack Obama's
America's intelligence
dynamic
community
was
told
with
us
Russia.
Russia interfered in the
Or
election of the president of the
Joe
United States in
Biden's
2016
dynamic
and is playing
with,
in 2020.
I don't know,
Christopher
Ukraine.
Wray, the director of the FBI, said the same.
I think
But
you
Donald
know.
Trump, the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, prefers to take the word of Vladimir Putin over the word of the American intelligence community. You look at our friends at NATO. He's walked away from agreements.
No.
Look at the
He didn't
Iran
walk
nuclear
away.
deal,
He got
which
them to
now
pay
has
their
put us in a
fair
position
share, which
where
they
we
have
are
been
less safe
screwing
because they are
America
building
for
up
the last 40
what might end up being
years.
a significant nuclear
They haven't been paying.
arsenal.
He got them to pay their
We were in
measly
that deal,
2
guys.
or
We were in the
3%,
Iran nuclear deal with
as opposed to
friends and allies
America
around the
paying
country.
it
And because
all.
of Donald Trump's unilateral approach to foreign policy, coupled with his isolationism, he pulled us out and has made America less safe. So, Susan, it's about relationships. And the thing that has always been part of the strength of our nation,
Does anybody
in addition to our great
remember
military, has been that
when we
keep
were
our word.
an
But Donald Trump doesn't
isolationist country
understand that, 'cause he
prior
doesn't
to Pearl
understand
Harbor?
what it
Because
means
that's
to
what
be
we were.
honest.
Thank you.
Prior
Thank
to
you,
Pearl
thank you,
Harbor
Senator
being
Harris.
attacked,
Vice President Pence, let me give you a chance to
we
respond.
were an
Well, thank you.
isolationist country.
President
And we
Trump
did
kept his
pretty
word when he
daggum
moved the
well
American embassy to
up
Jerusalem,
until then.
capital of the
It
city.
wasn't until we got
Joe
into
Biden was vice president. They
World
promised
War
to do that,
II
they never did.
that
We
we
stood
became
strong
a
with our
national
allies, but we've been demanding.
big brother to
NATO is now
everybody.
contributing more to our common
And
defense
then
than
guess what?
ever
Great
before,
Depression.
thanks to President Trump's leadership. We've strengthened our alliances across the Asia Pacific, and we've stood strong against those who would do us harm. You know, when President Trump came into office, ISIS had captured an area of the Middle East the size of Pennsylvania. But President Trump unleashed the American military, and our armed forces destroyed the ISIS caliphate and took down their leader, al-Baghdadi.
Destroyed.
American casualty. Al-Baghdadi was responsible for the death of thousands.
Watch.
Notably, America's hearts
She,
today
I
are
guarantee
with
you, she brings up Osama bin Laden.
parents of which are
Guaranteed
here with us
it'll
tonight
happen.
in Salt Lake City. Today, 2 of the ISIS killers responsible for Kayla Mueller's murder were brought to justice in the United States. Jihadi John was killed on the battlefield along with the other beetle. The reality is that
And I'm sorry,
Joe
I don't
Biden's
know
vice
who
president
came up
had
with
an
the
opportunity
idea of
save
the
Kayla.
ISIS Beatles,
Great
but whoever
smile
it
to
is,
reflect on it,
they
but the military
definitely
came into the
deserve
Oval Office,
a pat on the
presented
back
a plan,
and possibly a
said they
nomination
knew
for the
where
Nobel
Kayla
Peace
was.
Prize just because
Baghdadi
we're
had held
handing
for
them out, we're
18
throwing them
months
to
and
everybody.
abused her mercilessly
I
before
think
they
they should definitely get
killed
that
her.
because that's the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Joe Biden was vice president. They hesitated for a month. And when armed forces finally went in, it was clear she'd been moved 2 days earlier. And her family says with a heart that broke the heart of every American that if President Donald Trump had been president, they believe Kayla would be alive today.
Thank you, Vice
Look, we
President.
destroyed the ISIS caliphate. And you talk about re-entering the Iran
Again,
nuclear deal. I mean, the
Mike
last
Pence
administration
definitely
transferred
needs to be more
$1.8 billion
concise. I mean, I
to
know
the
we're like
leading
an
state
hour into
sponsor
this
Thank
thing.
you,
We're
Vice
almost
President.
over now.
President
But
Donald
he
Trump
should
got us
definitely
out of
be
the
more
deal.
concise. But I love the fact that he's
Qasem
just
Soleimani
going to
was
continue to
traveling
talk.
to
He's not going to
Baghdad.
let them
Thank you,
cut him
Harm
off
to
like
Americans.
Chris
President
Wallace
Donald Trump
did
Thank you, Vice
for
President.
Joe Biden in the
America
presidential
is
debate.
safer, our allies are safer, and the American people know President Donald Trump will never
Thank you, Vice President
take
Pence.
action.
I would like to give Senator Harris a chance to respond, but
Of
not
course
at
she
such
would,
great
because
length, of course there are
she
other topics
she
we want to
responds
talk
to
about.
everything,
like you to
and you
Yes.
just get to sit there.
Please go ahead.
First of all, to the Mueller family, I know about your daughter's case, and I'm so sorry.
No, you're
I'm
not.
so sorry.
No, you're not. If you were sorry,
what happened to her
you would
is
have talked to them, but
and
you
it should
didn't.
never happen.
You didn't.
And I know
Donald
Joe feels the
Trump
same
had
way.
them come to the
And I know
RNC
that
to
President
tell
Obama
their
feels the
story
same way.
so that people could know.
But you mentioned Soleimani. Let's start there.
Let's start there.
So after the
I'll
strike
bet,
on
I'll
Soleimani,
bet she goes
there was a
to
counter strike
the Bin Laden.
on our troops in Iraq.
Guaranteed it circles around to that.
And they suffered serious brain injuries. And do you know what Donald Trump dismissed them as? Headaches. And this is about a pattern of Donald Trump's.
No, he didn't.
He has
He was
referred
talking about
to
that being
our
one of
men
the
who were
effects of
serving
what
in our
happened.
military as suckers and
He
losers.
no, he did.
Donald
Ooh, biggest
went to Arlington
biggest
Cemetery
debunked story of the
and
last 2
stood
months.
above the graves of our fallen heroes.
25
and said,
different people, a
"What's in it
few
for them?"
who in fact hate Trump.
Because, of
One
course,
being
you
the
know,
guy
he
who
only
wrote a
thinks about what's in
book
it
disgracing
for him.
Donald Trump
Let's take
even said
what he said
he
about
never
John
said that.
McCain,
But you
a
guys
great
keep
American
pushing that
hero.
narrative. You, just
And-
like
and
the
Donald
very
Trump
fine
says
people on both
He doesn't
sides.
deserve to be called a hero because he was a prisoner of war.
Honestly,
Take
John
this,
McCain
this
doesn't
is
deserve to be
very
called a hero.
important.
John
When
McCain
you wanna
was
talk
a
about
shit
who's
bag.
the
Sorry,
commander-in-chief
people, again, R
and what
rating
they
because
care
we
about
don't
and
know
what
what
they
we're going to
don't
talk
care
about. John
Public
McCain was a
reporting
shit bag
that Russia
when it came down
bounties
to
on
it.
the heads
He was a warmonger,
American
and all he
soldiers.
wanted to
And you know
do
what a
was send
bounty
American
is?
soldiers
If
over to fight
somebody
wars
puts a
that we
price
didn't
on
need
your
to be
head
involved
and
in
they
and that
will
we
pay
shouldn't
if
have
you
even
are
been
killed.
around.
And Donald Trump had talked at least 6 times to Vladimir Putin and never brought up the subject. Joe Biden would never do that.
Thank you.
No, Joe Biden would sit in the basement somewhere
hold
and
Russia to
sit at a
account
big
for any
big desk and
threats
think he was in the Oval
to our
Office.
nation's security or to our troops who are sacrificing their lives for the sake of our
Joe Biden
democracy
would be in
and
the
our
basement.
Thank you,
Hello?
Senator Harris. This is such
Who's
an
this?
important issue, but we
Putin.
have other
I didn't
important
poop.
issues as well, and
Susan,
I want to
I-
make sure we have a chance
I really have
to talk
to
about.
respond to that.
I'm-
Look, she has
15 seconds because
Well, I gotta
we're
have
trying
more
to
than
keep.
that. Look.
Well, I'm sorry, but Vice President,
Look,
but you've
I-
had more time than she's had. so
No,
far.
he hasn't.
against President Donald Trump.
You know, next debate, I'm getting a
Regarding
timer.
men and women
We're going to have a
who are
timer right down here in the bottom of the screen.
I'm sorry, Vice
My
President
son is
Pence.
a captain in the United
Yes.
States Marine Corps. My son-in-law is deployed in the United States Navy. I can assure all of you, with sons and daughters serving in our military,
Joe Biden knows
President
about
Donald
sons,
Trump
too.
not only respects, but
Hey, Hunter?
reveres all of those who serve in our armed forces, and any suggestion otherwise is ridiculous. Let
Thank
me
you,
also
Vice
say,
President Pence.
the
Vice
American
President
people
Pence,
deserve, Susan,
Vice
the
President
American
Pence,
people
I
deserve
didn't,
to know.
Vice President
that-
Pence, I did not,
the
excuse me,
Amer- Susan, the
I did
American
not
people
create
deserve
the
to know
rules for tonight.
Oh, my
Joe
God.
Biden-
Your campaigns agreed to the rules for tonight's
I-
debate with the Commission on Presidential Debates. I'm here to enforce them, which involves moving from one topic to another, giving roughly equal time to both of you.
Roughly
which is what I'm
equal.
trying
You're
to
giving
accomplish.
her 8 minutes
So
to
I want
his
to go
2.
ahead and move to the next topic, which is an important one, as the last topic was, and that is the Supreme Court. On Monday, the Senate Judiciary Committee is scheduled to open hearings on Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. Senator Harris, you'll be there as a member of the committee. Her confirmation would cement the court's conservative majority and make it likely open to more abortion restrictions, even to overturning the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling.
Nobody
Access
even
to
knows
abortion
whether or not
would
that's
then
going to
be up to the
happen.
states.
You guys
Vice
are all
President
talking
Pence,
about
you're
that's the
former governor of
leftist
Indiana.
reason for
If Roe v.
hating
Wade is
Amy
overturned,
Barrett, because
what would
they
you
think
want
hypothetically
Indiana to
she
do? Would you
may
want your home
try and
state to
overturn
ban
Roe v. Wade, their
all
precious
abortions?
I want to murder babies
Well, thank you for the
clause.
question, but I'll use a little bit of my time to respond to that very important issue before. The American people deserve to know Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general, was responsible for the death of hundreds of American service members.
Tortured
The
and
opportunity
killed
came. We saw him head to
hundreds.
Baghdad to kill more Americans. President Trump didn't hesitate, and Qasem Soleimani is gone. But you deserve to know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris actually criticized the decision to take out Soleimani.
As did most liberals, by the way.
It's really inexplicable. But with regard to Joe Biden, it's explainable. Because history records that Joe Biden actually opposed the raid against Osama bin Laden. It's absolutely essential.
Pence did it. Oh my God. I am shocked right now.
Hesitate to act to protect American lives and to protect American service members, and that's what you have in President Donald Trump. Now, with regard to the Supreme Court of the United States, let me say President Trump and I could not be more enthusiastic about the opportunity to see Judge Amy Coney Barrett become Justice Amy Coney Barrett.
Which
She's
she
a brilliant
should
woman,
do.
And she will bring a lifetime of experience and a sizable American family to the Supreme Court of the United States. And our hope is, in the hearing next week, unlike Justice Kavanaugh received with treatment from you and others, we hope she gets a fair hearing. And we particularly hope that we don't see the kind of attacks on her Christian faith that we saw before. I mean, the Democrat chairman of the Judiciary
Kamala's gearing up. She's going to attack the Catholicism.
Confirmed for the Court of Appeals, expressed concern that the dogma of her faith lived loudly in her. Dick Durbin of Illinois said that it was a concern. Senator, I know one of our judicial nominees you actually attacked because they were a member of the Catholic Knights of Columbus, just because the Knights of Columbus holds pro-life views. And
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
So
Your time
cut him off when he's going to make a point.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
That Judge Amy Coney Barrett will be respected,
Thank you,
treated
Vice President
respectfully,
Pence.
voted and confirmed
Thank
with
you.
the Supreme Court of the United States.
Senator Harris, you're the senator from and former Attorney General of California. So let me ask you a parallel question to the one I posed to the Vice President. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want California to do? Would you want your home state to enact no restrictions on access to abortion? And you have...
I mean, that's what she wants nationwide anyway.
Thank you, Susan. First of all, Joe Biden and I are both people of faith. It's insulting to suggest
loosely
that we
translated.
would knock anyone for their faith. And in fact, Joe, if elected, will be only the second practicing Catholic as president of the United States. On the issue
quick
of this,
question,
of this
Kamala.
nomination,
Quick question. What's
Joe and I are very clear.
what's
As
the
a majority of
Roman
Americans,
Catholic Church's stance on
we
abortion?
are 27 days before
He needs
the
to say
decision
this.
about
If
who will be
Pence
the next
doesn't hit
president of the
this,
United States.
then
And,
he
before
missed a
when this conversation
very
has come up,
opportune
it's been
moment
about
to make her
election year or
look just
election time.
ridiculous.
We're
What is the
literally in
Roman
an
Catholic
election.
stance on
Over
abortion?
4 million people have voted. People are in the process of voting right now. And so Joe has
Gee,
been
you
very
think
clear,
it's
as the
it's
American
the
people
election
are.
season?
Let the
I
American
thought maybe
people
they'd be
fill
out
that seat in the
hanging out at the skating
and then we'll
rink.
fill that seat on the United States Supreme Court. And to your point, Susan, the issues before us couldn't be more serious. There's the issue of choice, and I will always fight for a woman's right to make a decision about her own body.
Her
It should be
body.
her decision and
Her
not that of Donald
body,
Trump
you
and
moron.
Vice President
The
Michael
baby
Pence.
inside
And
of
let's
her
also
body
look
is
at what
not
else is
her
before
body.
the
You don't
court.
have
It's the
20
Affordable
fingers and
Care
20
Act.
toes.
Like,
When you're
literally
pregnant,
in the midst
you
of a
don't have
public
that.
health pandemic.
If you're
When
pregnant with a
over
boy, you don't
210,000
have a
people
penis.
have died,
Okay?
and 7 million people probably have what will be in the future considered a pre-existing condition because you contracted the virus. Donald Trump is in court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And I said
Yeah,
it
because
before,
it's a
and it bears
horrendously
repeating.
stupid act.
This means that there will be no more protections if they win for people with pre-existing conditions.
He's already
This
said, I don't know
means
how many
that over
times that
20
he
million
has
people
to
will
say
lose your coverage.
there is
It
already
means that
in
if you're
place
under the age of 26, you can't stay on your
policies
parents' coverage
with
anymore.
his
And here's the
health care
thing.
act
The
that he
contrast
is
couldn't be
going
more
to
clear.
introduce.
They're trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. Joe Biden is saying, let's expand coverage. Let's give you a choice of a public
Thank you,
option
Senator.
or private coverage. Let's bring down
No, he's not.
premiums.
No, he's not.
Let's lower
Because he
Medicare
openly
eligibility.
advocated
Thank you.
during the
That's true
presidential
leadership.
election.
You know,
You
mentioned,
openly advocated
earlier,
for
Vice
Medicare for
President
all.
Pence said the president
For
was committed
all.
to maintaining protections for people with pre-existing conditions. But you do have this court case that you are supporting, your administration is supporting, that would strike down the Affordable Care Act. The president says,
You know,
President Trump
it's
says
getting
that he's
rather
gonna protect
ridiculous
people
because
with
this
pre-existing
pre-existing
conditions, but he has not explained
conditions thing
how
is
he would do that.
literally
And that was
the
one of
exact
toughest
same
tests
thing
to crack
as
when
Donald
they were
Trump has to
passing
wake up every day,
So tell us
stand out on his
specifically,
balcony,
how would your
and
administration
proclaim that he
protect
condemns
Americans with
white
pre-existing conditions
supremacists
to have
and
access to affordable
neo-Nazis.
insurance
he also they're gonna have to get a checklist of everything he has to wake up and
thank you, Susan.
and
Let me
address
just say,
every
addressing
day
you very
for the
first.
rest of his existence and presidency.
I couldn't be more
He
proud
has to
of the
get
Vice
up.
President,
He has to
President
condemn white
who stands
supremacists
without
and
apologies
neo-Nazis.
for
He has
centuries
to
of lying.
verify
I'm
that
pro-life.
he is in
I don't
fact
apologize for it.
he in fact has
And this is
a
another one of those
pre-existing
cases where there's such a
condition
dramatic contrast.
clause
Joe
in
Biden and
his
Kamala Harris
health care
support
that he's going to
taxpayer-funded
pass.
abortion
He has
all
to
the
he has to
way up
wake up and say that
late-term abortion. They want to
China
increase funding to Planned Parenthood
is somebody
of
that we
America.
should
Now,
be
for our
friends
part,
with.
I would never
He
presume
has to
on
wake up every day and say that he's not a racist. He has to wake up every day and step out on his balcony and he has to say all that. They're gonna have a checklist. It's gonna be like Santa Claus, just checking off everything he has to say every day for the rest of the time he's president.
Pack the court if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed. I mean, there have been 29 vacancies on the Supreme Court during presidential election years, from George Washington to Barack Obama. Presidents have nominated in all 29 cases. But your party is actually openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court, which has had 9 seats for 150 years.
She's not going to be able to get out of this one.
This is a
She
classic
can't.
case of if you
She
can't live by
cannot
the
dance
rules,
around
you gotta
this
change the rules.
because
Now, you
her
refuse to answer the
and
question.
everybody else
Joe Biden has
on the
refused to answer
Democratic
the question.
Party
So I think
has
the
said
American
it.
people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed at the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that
So
a
am
little
I.
more.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
In 1864...
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I'm with Pence on this one. I'd like to answer the
In
question.
1864, one of the, I think, political heroes, certainly of the president, I assume if you also, Mr. Vice President, is Abraham Lincoln.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham Lincoln was up for re-election.
Yeah.
And it was 27 days before the election.
Mm-hmm.
And a seat became open on the United States Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham Lincoln's party was in charge not only of the White House, but the Senate. But Honest Abe said it's not the right thing to do. The American people...
Well, that's
deserve
because
to make
none
a
of them were
decision
there. We were in the
about
middle
who
of
will
a
be the next
civil
president of the
war,
United
you
States. And
ignorant.
then that person can select who will serve for a lifetime on the highest court of our land. And so
That is
Joe
the
and I are
stupid.
very
Not only is
the
she
American people are voting
mentally
right now.
deficient that she
And
had to
it
go
should
back
be
150
their
years
decision
to find one case
about who will
where the
serve
president
on
didn't
this most
nominate
important
somebody
for
in
a
that
lifetime.
particular situation.
Thank you.
But then you pick the
Senator
one
Harris,
time
Susan, are
that we're in the
voting
middle
right
of
now. They'd like to know
a
if you,
civil
Joe Biden, are
damn
gonna
war
pack the
where
Supreme
our
Court
entire country was
if you don't
divided
give your
and
way on
fighting
this
each
nomination.
other
Let's talk
at
about
that
that.
particular
Once again,
time.
you gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a
Answer the
non-answer.
question.
Answer
The
you
American
now.
people deserve a straight answer, and if you haven't figured it out yet, the straight answer is they are going to pack the Supreme Court if
Boom.
they somehow win this election. Men and
Mr.
women,
Vice
I
President,
got to
I
tell you,
think-
people across this country, if you cherish our Supreme Court, if you cherish the separation of powers, you need to reject.
If I were
the
Mike Pence, this is why I
Biden-Harris
couldn't be
ticket,
vice
come
president
November
or
3rd,
president for that
re-elect
matter.
President Donald
Because
Trump.
if I were
Stand
Mike
by
Pence
that
right now,
separation of powers
every
and not
question
seats.
that I was
let's talk
asked
about
for the
packing the
entire
court then.
rest of the night
Let's talk
would
about
be,
the fact-
are you
yeah,
going to
I'm
pack the Supreme
about
Court?
to. So, the Trump-Pence administration has been, because I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Susan, as you mentioned. and
Are you
I
going to pack the
witnessed
court?
The appointments for lifetime appointments to the federal courts, district courts, courts of appeal.
Are you going to pack the court?
People who are purely ideological, people who have been reviewed by legal professional organizations and found to have been not competent, are substandard.
Are you going to
And do
pack
you
the
know
court?
That of the 50 people who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black? This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a
This
court?
is her
Let's have
right
that
now.
discussion.
Just
All right, thank you, Senator. Let's
She
go on
didn't
and
even
talk about
answer the
issue
question.
of
He
racial
asked her
I just
3
want the record to
times.
reflect she never answered the question.
Thank you.
But the American people,
Thank
maybe
you.
in the next debate, Joe Biden will answer the question.
Thank you,
But I think
thank
the
you.
American people know the answer.
Thank you, Vice President.
They absolutely know the answer.
In March, Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old emergency
Oh,
technician in
Jesus
Louisville,
Christ.
was shot and killed after police officers executing a search warrant in a narcotics investigation broke into her apartment. The police said they identified themselves. Taylor's boyfriend said he didn't hear them do that.
along
used a
with the
gun
upstairs
registered
neighbor
to
who
him with a
corroborated
shot,
and said
which
that
wounded
they
an
did
officer.
announce themselves.
The officers then
Go ahead and
fired
say
more than
that.
20 rounds into the apartment. They say they were acting in self-defense.
Because they were
None of them
fired
have been
upon.
indicted in connection with her death. Senator Harris, in the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes.
Yes.
I don't believe so. And I've talked with Breonna's mother, Tamika Palmer, and her family. And her family deserves justice. She was a beautiful young woman.
They did, in the form of
She
a
had as her life goal to become a
multi-million-dollar
nurse, and she wanted to
settlement
become an EMT
with the
and
Louisville
first learn
Police Department.
what's going on
I
out on
believe
the
that's
street.
justice
She
enough
could then
because it was
become a
completely
nurse and save
justified in what happened.
her life was
Not
taken
saying she deserved to
unjustifiably
die,
and tragically and violently.
but how
And
that
it
event
brings me
panned
to,
out, there was no wrongdoing on the part
8
of the
minutes and
officers.
46 seconds
We
that
went
America
over
witnessed,
this case
during
twice
which
on this show.
an American man was
They were
tortured
fired
and
upon.
killed
What is she
under
even
the
talking
knee
about?
of an armed
George
uniformed
Floyd.
police officer.
We're talking about Breonna Taylor here. I'm confused.
And
She
people
has
around
jumped
our
around
country
so much.
of
I've
every
lost track of
race,
her.
of every age, of every gender, perfect strangers to each other, marched shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm.
And I didn't hear one thing about
Fighting.
COVID at that point. We
for
did
us
the
to
numbers right
finally
here on
achieve
this
that
show.
ideal of equal
Go back,
justice
check
under
that
the
out.
law. And I was a part of those peaceful protests.
Yeah, I'm sure you were.
And
You were
I
encouraging
believe
them, in
strongly
fact, while they were
that,
burning
first
down
of
the
all, we are
Target
never gonna
and looting the
condone
Foot
violence,
Locker.
But we always must fight for the values that we hold dear, including the fight to achieve our ideals. And that's why Joe Biden and I have said on this subject, look, and I'm a
That you
former
can-
career
that you
prosecutor.
encourage
I know what I'm talking about.
rioting
Bad cops
and
are bad
looting.
for good cops. We need reform of our policing in America and our
Your
criminal justice
version
system,
of
which is why
reform
Joe
is
and I will
defunding.
immediately
That's
ban
not
chokeholds
reform,
and
that's
pride controls.
defunding.
George Floyd would be alive today if we did that. We will
No, he
require
wouldn't have,
national
because he had
arrest
so much
for
meth and
police officers
fentanyl
who
in his
break the
system,
law.
he could have
We
tranked
will, on the issue
2
of criminal justice
circus
reform,
elephants.
get rid of private prisons and cash bail, and
Thank
we
you.
will decriminalize marijuana. And
Hey,
we will,
while
we
we're
will
talking
expunge
about,
the records of those who have
Thank you,
been
Senator.
convicted
criminal
of
reform,
marijuana.
would you
This
like
Thank
to
you,
tell
Senator,
about
for
the
leadership
mass
on
amount
a
of
tragic,
vastly majority
tragic issue.
black
Senator
and
Harris,
minority
Black
people that
people
you
in
locked
America.
up
Thank you, Senator Harris.
while you were the state
Vice President Pence,
district
let me
attorney
pose the same question to you.
for
case of
nonviolent
Breonna
drug
Taylor,
charges? And
was
then
justice done?
you tossed out
Minutes,
evidence that
uninterrupted.
would have allowed them to go free to extend their
Well, our heart
sentences.
breaks.
Let's talk about that, Kamala.
Any innocent American life. Family Breonna Taylor has our sympathies. But I trust our justice system, a grand jury that refused the evidence. And it really is remarkable that as a former prosecutor, you would assume that an impaneled grand jury looking at all the evidence got it wrong. But
A grand jury of their peers that were majority black.
and with regard to George Floyd,
case you didn't
there's
know.
no excuse for what happened to George Floyd. Justice will be served. But there's also no excuse for the rioting and looting that followed.
He needs to hold
I mean,
the
it
Democrats
really is
accountable
astonishing.
for
Flora Westbrook is
encouraging
with us
that.
here tonight in Salt Lake City. Just a few weeks ago, I stood at what used to be her salon. It was burned to the ground by rioters and looters. And Flora is still trying to put her life
$2
back together.
billion with a B,
And I must tell you,
billion
this-
dollars in private property
this
damage
presumption
in these
here
riots,
consistently
these peaceful
from
protests.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, that
Thousands of
America is
officers
systemically racist.
in
That,
critical
as Joe Biden
condition,
said, that he believes
critically
that law
injured.
enforcement has an implicit
I think it's like
bias
30
against
deaths at
minorities.
this point. Most of them
Is
African
a great
American,
insult
like Officer David Dorn,
to the men and women who serve in
which
law
the
enforcement.
Democrats
Everyone who puts
refuse
on
to
the
even
uniform of law enforcement.
acknowledge.
And President Trump and I stand with you. And it is remarkable that when Senator Tim Scott tried to pass a police reform bill, brought together a group of Republicans and Democrats, Senator Harris, you got up and walked out of the room. And then you filibustered Senator Tim Scott's bill on the Senate floor that would have provided new accountability, new resources. But we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement, improving public safety, and supporting our African American
Thank you,
neighbors
Vice
and
President.
all of our minorities. Under President Trump's leadership,
Thank you,
we'll
Vice President
always
Pence.
stand with law enforcement, and we'll do what we've done
Vice
from day
President Pence,
one, and
thank
that is
you. Your time
improve
is
the
up.
lives of African Americans.
Thank you, Vice
Record
President.
unemployment,
While the
record
Democrats
attendance
condemn
education,
cops
to fight
and
for
encourage
school choice
criminals.
for all of our members.
Thank you, Vice
I'd
President.
like to respond.
Senator
Of course
Harris.
you would.
I will not sit here and be lectured by the Vice President on what it means to enforce the laws of our country. I am the only one on this stage who was personally prosecuted. Everything
Oh,
from child
I
sexual
think
assault
struck
to
a
homicide.
nerve.
I'm the only one on this stage who has prosecuted the big banks for taking advantage of America's homeowners. I'm the only one on this stage who prosecuted for-profit colleges for taking advantage of our veterans.
What is that on his head?
And the reality of this is that we are talking about an election in 27 days, where last week the President of the United States took a debate
Did
stage
he have a
in front of
fly
70 million
land on his
Americans
head?
and refused
He
to
needs to-
condemn
he needs
white
to-
supremacists.
No,
And
you are the only
it
person
wasn't
on that
like he
stage
didn't
that
have a
locked up
chance.
thousands of black
didn't do
and
it, and then he
minority
doubled
people
down.
for
then he
non-violent
said,
drug
"Confess,
offenses and then extended
stand
their
back,
sentences.
stand
You're the only
by."
one that did that. Talk about that.
This is a part of a pattern of Donald Trump's. He was
Oh, there it
called
goes. It flew
Mexicans,
away.
rapists,
All right.
and criminals. He instituted
The fly
as
is
his
gone,
first act
everybody.
a
Ladies and
Muslim
gentlemen, the
ban
fly
on the
is
issue
has
of
left the building.
Charlottesville, where people were peacefully protesting.
Peacefully
The need for
protesting?
racial
Hold on.
justice,
I'm
where a
gonna
young
pull up an
woman was
overlay
killed,
of the
and on
peaceful
other side,
protests
there
that
were
have been going on
neo-Nazis
across the
carrying
country.
tiki torches,
Let you guys see that.
shouting racial epithets,
Here we go.
anti-Semitic
Here we go.
slurs.
Charlottesville.
And Donald Trump, when asked about it, said there were fine people on both sides. This is who we have as the president of the United
This
States.
is
In
literally
America,
the
you
most
deserve better.
debunked
Joe
Donald
Biden will
Trump
be a
thing
president
that they
who brings our
have in
country
the
together
4 years he's been
and
president.
recognize
Go
the
back.
beauty in our
Go
diversity
back and
the
watch
fact
that
we all
whole
have so much
clip,
more in common than
not
what's
cut
worrying
like
us.
CNN
Vice
and
President, let me
MSNBC
give
likes
you
to show
a
you,
minute
but the
to
whole clip,
Thank you,
that
Susan. I
5
appreciate
seconds
that
before
very
he
much.
said that, when he said, I'm not talking about
I
the
think the smart
neo-Nazis
things
and the
that
white
makes
nationalists
people
that
dislike
need to be
the media so much
condemned
in this
totally. He is literally
selectively edit, just
condemned.
Like Senator Harris did.
He has literally condemned
Obviously,
white
President
supremacy
Trump and I,
and
of course,
white
on our side
nationalists
of the aisle, maybe.
so many times that he
Senator
had to
Harris
actually
immediately
ask
admitted that
when
after
they
President
asked him to do it,
comments
he
about
actually had to
people
ask,
on
how
either
many
side
times do I
of the
have to
debate over
do that?
monuments, he condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so repeatedly.
He did it like
Certainly
5 times
doesn't
in the span of a
condemn
4
neo-Nazis.
day.
President Trump has Jewish
4
grandchildren.
days. He did it like
His
10
daughter and son are
times.
Jewish. This is a president who respects and cherishes all of the American people. But you talk about having personally prosecuted. I'm glad you brought up your record, Senator.
Oh,
Thank you.
oh.
I really need to make this point. When you were DA in San Francisco, when you left office,
Oh.
African Americans were 19 times more likely to be prosecuted for minor drug offenses than whites and
Get 'em.
Hispanics. When you were Attorney
Thank you.
General of California,
Thank you,
you
Vice President.
increased
No, don't
the
stop.
pur-
You
the
keep going.
disproportionate incarceration of
Thank you.
blacks in California. You did nothing on criminal justice reform in California. You didn't lift a finger to
you.
pass the First Step Back on Capitol Hill.
Nope.
I mean,
Never
the
once.
reality is your record
Thank
speaks
you,
for
Vice
itself.
President.
President Trump and I have fought
Mic drop.
for criminal justice reform.
Thank you, Vice President.
Right
for
there.
educational choice
That's-
and opportunities for African Americans, all of our
Thank you,
minorities.
sir.
And we'll do it for 4 months.
Thank you. You know, there is no more important issue than the final issue that we're going to talk about tonight.
final
and that
issue.
is the issue of the election
But
itself.
they attacked my record. I would like an opportunity to respond.
Let me give you 30 seconds because we're running out of
I
time.
appreciate
My
that.
God.
First of all, having served as the Attorney General of the state of California, the work that I did is a model of what our nation needs to do. And we
Lock
will
up
be able
black
to do
people for
under
nonviolent
a
drug
Joe
crimes.
Biden
You're
presidency.
absolutely right.
Our agenda.
Before
includes
I
what
get
this
fact
administration has failed
checked,
to do.
I'm not
It will
saying
be
that.
about not
She's
only
saying that. That's
instituting a
exactly
ban
what she
on
just
chokeholds and
said.
strangleholds.
Thank you.
Not only,
Thank you, Senator.
I would
Harris.
like to go through,
These are points that you made earlier in the hour, and I want to
Yes.
talk about the election itself.
Shut them down.
but I
Shut
want to
her
talk
down.
about the connection between what Joe and I will do and my record, which includes I was the first
Why is she still
statewide
able to
officer
talk?
to institute
This is
a
that
requirement
biasy that I'm
my
talking about.
agents would
That
wear
is
body cameras
ridiculous.
and
She
keep
should
them on full
have
time.
been
We
cut
were the
off 2
first
minutes
to
ago
initiate
talking
a
about
requirement
this.
that there would be a training for
She's
law enforcement
already
on implicit
she's already
bias
tried to
because, yes,
defend
Joe
herself,
Biden and I
and he
recognize that implicit bias
absolutely
does exist, Mr. Vice
lambasted her.
President,
He used
contrary
her
to
as a
what you may
punching
believe.
bag just now,
We did the
and she
work
don't like
of
it.
instituting reforms that were about investing in reentry. This is the work that we have done and the work we will do going forward. And again, I will not be lectured by the Vice President.
I will not be lectured.
On our
No,
record,
you won't be lectured. You'll be told
what we have
facts,
done in
and the
terms of
facts
law
are that
enforcement and
you
keeping our communities safe
specifically,
and a commitment to reforming
and
the criminal
and
justice
Joe
system.
Biden's 1994
Thank you,
crime
Senator
bill
Harris. I'd like to pose
specifically
the
locked up
first-
a
I'd like to
vast
respond
majority
first
of
to the
black
question
and
on the final
minority
topic, the
people
election
for
itself.
non-violent
President
drug
Trump has several
crimes.
times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If your ticket wins and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what steps would you and Vice President Biden then take? What would happen next? You have 2 minutes.
So I'll tell you, Joe and I are, I think, particularly proud of the coalition that we've built around our campaign. We probably have one of the broadest coalitions of folks that you've ever seen in a presidential race. Of course, we have the support of Democrats, but also independents and Republicans. In fact, 7 members of President George W. Bush's cabinet are supporting our ticket.
What
We
a
have
shocker.
the support of-
The most
of
liberal
Colin Powell, Cindy
Republican
McCain, John Kasich,
president we probably
over 500,
had in the last 100 years
generals, retired generals,
support
and
you.
former national
That's
security
an
experts and
amazing. I would have never
supporting
thought
our
it.
campaign.
George
And I
W.
believe
Bush
they are doing that because
is
they
the
know
Mitt Romney
that
of
Joe
presidents.
Biden
That's
has
what
a
he
deep,
is.
deep
He's the
secret
most liberal
to fight
Republican
for our
president we've had in
and to fight for
at
the
least
integrity
50 years,
of our democracy
for sure.
and to bring integrity back to the White House. And so we believe in the American people. We believe in our democracy. And here's what I'd like to say to everybody. Vote. Please vote. Vote early. Come up with a plan to vote. Go to
Please
iwillvote.com. You can
Please.
also go to
You
JoeBiden.com.
can vote for us. You
We
just
have
write it on
within
a,
our
on a
power
piece of
in these
paper, a
next
little notebook
27
paper. You put it on a
days
piece of paper, put it in the
make
mail,
the
and
decision
the
about
post
what will
office
be
they'll bring it right to the
course
vote
of our
counter.
country
That's what
for the
they'll do.
next 4 years. And it is within our power, and if we use our vote and we use our voice,
I mean, we
we
used
will
our
win.
vote 4 years
and we will
ago
not let
and got
anyone
exactly what we
subvert
wanted.
our democracy.
Donald
What
Trump,
Donald Trump
president.
has been doing, as
You
we heard on
guys
the debate
have
stage last
yet
week,
to
when
have a
again in front
peaceful
of 70
transition
million
to that
people,
presidency, haven't
he
you?
openly attempted to suppress the vote.
When?
Joe Biden, on the other hand, on that
When
same
did he
debate stage,
suppress the
because
vote?
clearly Donald
When did
Trump
he
doesn't think can
openly
run on a
suppress?
record because
Please
he failed president.
show me
Joe Biden on
out
that
there.
stage
If
said,
you're
hey,
if you're watching,
please vote.
show
So all
me
the
if
people
you
Joe
can
said,
show me
please
where
vote.
he
Thank you,
openly
Senator. Vice
suppressed
President
votes.
President
Show
Trump has
me,
several
because
times
I've never
refused to
seen
commit
it.
himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election.
He's not
If
going
Vice
to need
President
to.
Biden has
He's
declared
not
the
going to
winner
need
and
to.
President Trump
Let's
refuses
just
to
say it
accept
like it
peaceful
is. He
transfer
doesn't
of
need
power,
to peacefully
what would be your
transition
role
power
and
for
responsibility
another 4
as
years,
Vice President?
because
What would
that's
you
when he's going to have to transfer
personally
power,
do
because he's
to
getting
put your-
reelected. I don't know what to tell you.
Well, Susan, first and foremost, I think we're going to win this election.
Thank you.
Because while Joe Biden and Kamala Harris rattle off a long litany of the establishment in Washington, D.C., an establishment that Joe Biden's been a part of for 47 years,
And done nothing.
Donald Trump has launched a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life.
Yep.
And I have every confidence that those same Americans that delivered that historic victory in 2016, they see this president's record where we rebuild our military. We revived our economy through tax cuts and rolling back regulation, fighting for fair trade, unleashing American energy. We appointed conservatives to our federal courts at every level. And we stood with the men and women of law enforcement every single day. And I think that movement of Americans has only grown stronger in the last 4 years. But when you talk about accepting the outcome of the election, I must tell you, Senator, your party has spent the last 3.5 years trying to overturn the results of the last election.
Yep. Where's the
It's
peaceful
amazing.
transition for
When Joe
you?
Biden was vice president of the United States, the FBI actually spied on President Trump and my campaign.
Which, by the
There were
way,
documents
Trump
released that the
just
CIA actually made a referral
just confirmed that
to
he is
the
calling for the
FBI
release
documenting that
of the
those allegations were coming
unredacted
from the Hillary Clinton
reports.
campaign. And of course,
So
we've all
heads
seen
are
the
fixing to roll.
avenues
I can almost guarantee
that
you
put
it.
the country through for the better part of 3 years. until it was found that there was no obstruction, no collusion, case closed.
Millions of
And
taxpayer
then,
money
Senator Harris, you and your colleagues
drained trying
Congress
to
tried to impeach the
overthrow
President of the United States
the
over
president,
phone
a
calls.
duly elected
And
president.
now Hillary Clinton has actually said to Joe Biden that in her words, under no circumstances should he concede the election.
None. That's
Let
what
me
she
just say, I
said,
think we're going to
none.
win this election. President Trump and I are fighting every day in courthouses to prevent Joe Biden and Kamala Harris from changing the rules and creating this universal mail-in voting that will create a massive opportunity for voter fraud. And we have a free and fair election. We know we're going to have confidence in it. And I believe in all my heart that President Donald Trump's going to be reelected for 4 more years.
You know, I've asked.
Thank you,
I've
Mr.
written all the
Pence.
questions that I've asked tonight, but for the final question of the debate, I'd like to read a question that someone else wrote. The Utah Debate Commission asked students in the state to write essays about what they would like to ask you. And I want to close tonight's debate with the question posed by Brecklin Brown. She's an 8th grader at Springville Junior High in Springville, Utah. And here's what she wrote, quote, "When I watch the news, all I see is arguing between Democrats and Republicans. When I watch the news, all I see is citizen fighting against citizen. When I watch the news, all I see
election
are two candidates
season, that's
from
bound to
opposing parties
happen.
trying to tear each other down. If our leaders can't get along, how are the citizens supposed to get along?" And then she added, "Your example."
Well, I can tell you they shouldn't go out and tear up the Target.
End quote. So to each of you in turn, I'd like you to take 1 minute and respond to Brecklin.
I can tell
Vice
you.
President Pence, you have 1 minute.
Defund the media.
it's a wonderful
That might
question.
help.
And let me just commend you for taking an interest in public life. I started following the news when I was very young. And in America, we believe in a free and open exchange of debate. And we celebrate that. And it's how we've created literally the freest and most prosperous nation in the history of the world. But I would tell you that don't assume that what you're seeing on your local news networks is synonymous with the American people. You know, I look at the relationship between Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late justice who we just lost from the Supreme Court, and the late Justice Antonin Scalia. They were on polar opposites on the Supreme Court of the United States. One very liberal, one very conservative. But what's learned since her passing was the two of them and their families were the very closest of friends. I mean, here in America, we can disagree. We can debate vigorously, as Senator Harris and
It's
I
called
have
civil
on this
discourse,
stage
but
tonight.
unfortunately, the left
When the
has
debate is
shied
over,
way
come
away
together
from
and
that
dance.
and would rather
That's
just
what people
shut
do in
down
big cities and
all
small towns
communication
across this
that
country. So I
disagrees
just
with
want to
them.
encourage you, Brecklin. I want to tell you that we're going to work every day to have government as good as our people. The American people, each and every day, love a good debate. We love a good argument, but we always come together and are always there for one another.
Thank you,
In
Vice
times of need, and we've especially learned that
Thank you,
through
Mr.
the
Vice President.
difficulties of this year.
Senator Harris, what would you say to Brecklin?
First of all, I love hearing from our young leaders. And when I hear her words, when I hear your words, Brecklin, I know our future is bright because
Mighty
that perspective
authoritarian
on
of you
who we should
to
be,
assume gender.
that is a sign of leadership
Kamala.
and is something we should all aspire to be. And that, that brings me to Joe. Joe Biden, one of the reasons that Joe decided to run for president is after Charlottesville, which we talked about earlier.
Yes. You've
It's
talked
so
about
troubled him, and upset
100,000
him
times,
like it
in
did
fact.
all of us, that there was that kind of hate and division. What propelled Joe to run for president was to see that over the course of the last 4 years, what Brecklin described has been happening. Joe has a
What
long-standing
propelled him
reputation
to
of
run
working across
was
the aisle,
that the Democrats
working in a
basically
bipartisan
handed
way.
it to him, and he
and
wanted
that's
to
what
stay
he's gonna do
relevant.
as president. Joe Biden has a history of
Racism?
lifting people up and fighting
Sniffing?
for their dignity. You mean you have to know Joe's story to know that Joe has known
he
pain,
lifts up kids to
he has
sniff
known
them.
suffering, and he has known love. And so, Brecklin, when you think about the future, I do believe the future is bright. And it will be because of your leadership, and it will be because we fight for each person's voice through their vote, and we get engaged in this election because you have the ability through your work and through eventually your vote
Thank you,
to
Senator
determine
Harris.
the future of our country and what its leadership looks like.
Thank you, Senator Harris.
So
Thank
you
you,
gonna
Vice
pack the
President
court?
Pence. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We want to thank also the University of Utah for its hospitality, and most of all, our thanks to all the Americans who watched this debate tonight. Again, our best wishes for a quick recovery to President Trump, the First Lady, and everyone who is battling COVID-19. The second presidential debate is next week on October 15th, a town hall style debate in Miami. We hope you'll join us then. Good evening.
All right. Turn that down there. All right. So, definitely a stark contrast in this one from the presidential debate of last week, which was by far the only way to describe as a shit show. My takeaway so far was lots of lies. First of all, with Kamala Harris, she danced around and backpedaled and did some more dancing around and then threw some lies in there. She refused to admit that her and Joe Biden have said publicly several times that they're going to ban fracking. I am slightly discerned with the fact that the moderator, who's supposed to be impartial, but as we said, writing the autobiography for Nancy Pelosi, didn't push her to admit that when she has publicly. I mean, I showed you video evidence that they have said that, and for her to say that they haven't is an outright lie. It's outright lie. It wasn't a manipulation. It wasn't a twisting. Any of that. It was an outright lie. The Green New Deal, I think that she should have been pushed a little harder on that, because again, it states right on the Joe Biden website that they agree with that. The USA Today article specifically said that Joe Biden's plan, his deal, is not at all different from the Green New Deal, which is going to cost trillions and trillions of dollars. It's going to destroy the American economy. It is going to annihilate everything about American way of life. I think she should have been pushed on that. I think toward the end you could see her getting a little riled up. I kind of assumed that would happen. Honestly, I was expecting it to happen far earlier. I was expecting that she would come out and be her hot-headed self and do exactly what Biden did and just sling insults and call names and be, a big child, because that's exactly what the liberals have done for the last, at the very least, 10 years. With Pence, I think there was a couple of lowlights. I think that he exacerbated the points. He stretched them out a bit too long. I think he should have been far more concise, to the point, instead of taking as much time as he did. He could have got through the questions and then been able to kind of poke and prod her a little bit. He didn't really say anything that was untrue that I heard. If again, I always like to hear feedback on the listeners and the viewers. So if you heard something, please feel free to comment, and I'll definitely go back and reassess it. But he stayed pretty on point with mostly facts, just hammering the facts, and that's what he had to do, and that's what I was saying he had to do going into this. He needed to be concise, be factual, and just nail facts of especially on the COVID situation, which I knew was going to be a huge thing. And for some weird reason, COVID kind of came into, they had like, I think they said 9 or 8 topics, and COVID was a part of all of them, including a whole topic just for COVID. But I said it from the onset that he needed to just hammer the facts of what Trump did, the timeline, which we went through a couple of times on this show, the timeline of everything Trump did to disprove what Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have been saying, which is that he did nothing and he just willy-nilly killed 210,000 people. The highlight of Kamala, I know a lot of people are going to say there wasn't really a highlight. There was some highlights. She is a phenomenal ducker and dodger. She did very well at that. She ducked and dodged almost every question, and basically her generic answer was, I'm glad you asked that. Trump is a racist. Trump is a bad guy. Orange man bad. She kept her composure for the majority of the debate. She did lose her cool a little bit toward the end, which, like I said, I assumed would happen quite earlier than it did. So I think the bar was a little bit higher for Kamala than it was for Joe Biden. Joe Biden basically just had to not fall on his face, and he did that. All she really had to do was not lose her temper and not lie. She, 1 out of 2 ain't bad. As far as the highlights for Pence, he was definitely on point. He definitely stuck her with facts, and he also got in a couple of jabs, and I do like the fact that he hammered her on packing the court. I think she should have been forced to answer that. I think that the moderator did a disservice to the job of moderator by not kind of forcing her to answer. She did a lot of dancing with that. I mean, he asked her outright 3 times. She danced around it, never did officially answer, which we all know the answer. They're going to pack the courts. I mean, they've said it. The entire Democrat Party has said it as a whole. They've said that if Trump nominated Amy Barrett, that they would if Joe Biden gets elected, they're going to pack the courts. They're going to do all this, do all that. And I think she should have been forced to answer that. But I think her not answering that spoke more of a volume than if she had answered. I was completely shocked that she didn't bring up the Osama bin Laden thing, where Barack Obama did get Osama bin Laden during his presidential term. I fully expected her to bring that up as a gotcha. You killed terrorists, we killed terrorists. We all get that opportunity. And it was actually Mike Pence who brought it up. I wasn't fully aware. I had heard different a few times back, a few years back, that Biden was against it. I don't know. I do know that in post I am going to check that, and if in fact he did, if I could find the article or anything that states that, I will definitely put that in, so you will be able to see that in real time when watching. So the final question for all my viewers is, what is your assessment? Who do you think won? What do you think the highlights, the lowlights, the best zingers? What did you think of the debate? Do you think that Pence steamrolled her? Do you think that it was even? Do you think that Harris took it? I want to hear from you guys, so make sure you comment down below. Make sure that you tweet me at JRay918 on Twitter. Also, The Johnny Ray Show on Facebook. Comment, like, share, subscribe. Again, YouTube, because this is going to be on YouTube specifically. I will not put the audio on Spotify or Apple Podcasts due to the length of and the fact that it's a visual, being, you know, the debate and all. So I won't put the audio up right away. I may do the audio later on, but for right now it's going to be on YouTube specifically. So make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell so that you're notified of any new episodes when they come out, and you don't miss any of the exclusive content that we have on YouTube. I am in the process of moving to a new studio area, so I may not do any more videos unless it's something like I'm gonna try and do a stream of the presidential debate I believe it's next week. So be on the lookout for that. I will try and do that if my time constraints are available. I was gonna do one of the last presidential debate, but YouTube decided that they were gonna knock that one out, so I didn't get the ability to do that like I wanted to. But hopefully once I can get moved to the new studio, I'll have a lot more space and ability to really bring a production together, so you guys could be able to see more so than hear like you have in the past. Again, like, share, comment, subscribe. Make sure and comment, tweet me, Facebook comments or messages. Comment down below here on YouTube. What did you think? What was the general consensus? Who do you think won? And what do you think the best part? What do you think the best segment was? And on that note, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I definitely want to continue to do this, and I can't do that without you guys. I'm also in the process of setting up a new membership ability. So once that gets finalized, I'll be able to have some membership, so I can do some more exclusive stuff for members only, behind the paywall and stuff like that. So I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure and catch me Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the regular show, as well as I'm going to start doing every other Saturday a 1 hour segment or more, it may be more, with call-ins and live reads and stuff like that. So you don't want to miss out on any of that, so make sure you are subscribed everywhere where audio podcasts are: Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, all the audios, as well as here on YouTube. And with that, I thank you. Good night. God bless.